just that, my God, what a round! SSG takes the map and the series. He's only got 2 bullets.
And wins that one too. DarkZero will take the series.
The man's a maniac. 3 kills before he gets dusted off. It's match point now for TSM. And Laxton wins it!
It's a flawless round from Oxygen.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rainbow Six in a major here in November. But this one is going to be a little special. You're going to find out in just a second. I'm going to be your host. My name is Billy, and I'm going to introduce you all to 2 great friends of mine, Caleb and Jacob. Last time you were with us, it was during the qualifier. It was your first time in Tier 1. Now you're here for the major. How you feeling, man?
Pretty damn good. This is one of the most exciting times of the year.
Okay,
We've waited weeks until the end of the qual.
Stop. I said how you feeling, Jacob. There's gotta be emphasis. You know why? Like I said before, this is on land, baby. Jacob, tell me how you really feel, man.
Oh my god, my inner monologue is nothing but happiness. We've wanted land for so long. We needed an opportunity for these guys to show what they can do when they're all in the same building, and now, finally, in front of us, we do have that chance. The best in North America is about to pop off, and I'm so ready for it, dude.
Jesse, we've been here before. Last time we saw these teams, DarkZero came out on top as the champions. How ready are you for this weekend?
I'm so excited. You know, you've already mentioned it, but it's the main talking point for me. It's got to be the land that we're coming into. Obviously, all the players together, you're looking at them now in Las Vegas. It's not got all the bells and whistles that we're used to. Obviously, you and I and Jacob are not there, and there's no crowd or anything like that. But it is land build. Everything's exciting. I'm pumped. We're going to have a great weekend of Siege ahead of us.
And talking about the weekend that we have ahead of us, let's see what's happening today. The matches that are coming up has to do a little bit with the teams you saw on your screen just then. It's going to be DarkZero, your August Major champions, facing off against the world champion, Spacestation Gaming. After that, TSM against Oxygen. Now, if you love fragging and highlight plays, you definitely want to tune into that one. But the lower bracket match, which is going to be our first elimination match, will feature the 2 losers from both of those series. I'm ready. You guys have been waiting for this all month long. But before we jump into the action and the nitty gritty, first off, let's get a word from our sponsors.
Nice shot from me! Perfect!
DarkZero. After winning the August Major, DarkZero started Stage 2 in the fast lane by taking a 2-0 off of the Sonics.
DarkZero will take map number 2 and the series.
Days later, however, a speed bump in the form of SSG sent them packing down to the losers bracket with a 2-0 that did not go in DZ's favor this time. Once in the lower bracket, DarkZero began to gather speed again, clinching a 2-1 victory in a nail-biter of a series versus E-United to place DarkZero in the winners group for Phase 2 of this stage. When Phase 2 began, DarkZero pulled out all the stops, taking around 15 overtime 2-0 versus TSM and nabbing themselves a spot in the major. Shortly thereafter, DarkZero took a 2-0 versus Oxygen to seal their fate as the top North American team during this stage. Heading into the major, their first match will be a rematch versus Space Station Gaming. Will DarkZero have what it takes to ensure a different outcome than last time? TSM. At the beginning of Stage 2, TSM lit the competition up, taking a decisive 2-0 versus Disrupt.
Dominance is really shown in that last round to a huge degree.
And then washing it down with another 2-0 versus Tempo Storm.
Stokes, that has to be one of the most one-sided best of threes I've casted in years.
At the start of Phase 2, as we just saw, TSM did stumble a bit in that match versus DarkZero, but they picked themselves up, dusted themselves off, and took a 2-0 off of SSG to ensure that TSM would be at the major. Days later, they took a 2-1 versus Oxygen for the decider match to place TSM in second place for this stage and to determine that their first match will be a rematch versus Oxygen.
Geo needs to do is stop this with a Nitro Cell, and he'll do it! TSM takes the match, stealing it away from OXG.
Well, they did it once by a slim margin. Can TSM put Oxygen down once more? Oxygen Esports. Oxygen tripped up a bit at the start of Stage 2, losing in a 2-1 versus Tempo Storm, but after that they proceeded right through the competition in the losers bracket, taking a 2-1 versus Disrupt, and then rematching with Tempo Storm, who put them here in the first place, but sweeping the competition 2-0 this time.
Oxygen seal the deal with a flawless round and take definite control of this matchup in 2-0 fashion.
However, a 2-0 victory over Space Station Gaming in the opening match of Phase 2 was to be their final win during the stage. As we just heard in talking about DarkZero and TSM storylines, we know that Oxygen went on to fall to them both, placing Oxygen in third place and positioning them to face TSM once again in their first match of the major. Have they reformulated a new strategy going into things this time? Space Station Gaming. Our former world champions are on a long road to reclaiming their glory, and it isn't over yet. Despite a strong start in the beginning of Stage 2, SSG began to struggle once the second phase started. As we just went over a few minutes ago, SSG did fall to Oxygen and then DarkZero with a 2-0 scoreline both times, handing them a ticket to the North American qualifiers. At the qualifiers, SSG were joined by the Sonics, Disrupt Gaming, and Canadian League team Mirage. And they proceeded to sail through the competition, 2-0ing Mirage, 2-0ing the Sonics, and then winning the grand finals versus Disrupt 3-2, and locking in that coveted spot at the major.
But 5 seconds left, he gets ended by Bosco. But the fourth team to compete in the major, joining OXG, TSM, and DZ, Space Station Gaming.
World champions SSG are on the right path, but can they follow it all the way to victory?
Now, I don't know about you guys at home, but I'm gonna let you know now, me and my two analysts, we're so ready for this. But first, let's talk about the format. This is going to be a double elimination bracket, and just like before, you guys know the finals will be a best of 5. This is going to span throughout the entire weekend, meaning the last day is going to be on Sunday. So make sure you tell all your friends to show out, pull up to the stream. Let's enjoy some really good Rainbow Six action. But Jesse, there's more on the line than just being a major winner right now. These teams, they're fighting to solidify their spots to go to 6 Invitational.
Yeah, the SI points are what everybody's talking about, and I'm going to make this really simple for you guys. By getting here, every single one of these teams have secured 225. Combine that with their points from Stage 1, and DarkZero, TSM, and Space Station have already locked in a spot for the 6 Invitational. They're going no matter what. For Oxygen, they need to do a little bit better. If they can win just one game, securing themselves at least third place, that'll be enough to push them over the edge. That 330 they'll get for third will be enough. If they lose every game, if they get fourth, they could still go, but at that point their fate's out of their hands. They're gonna have to wait for the APAC Major next week to figure out where they stand.
Now, the points are nice, but I'm gonna let you know right now, Jesse, the money and the prize pool is just so much better right now. Let's go ahead and get that on the screen. First place will walk away with $62,500. And like I said before, the stakes are higher than ever. They're playing on land. These players are gonna feel all the emotion, all the rush is gonna be flowing through their veins. I cannot wait. Jacob, right now, since we're on this screen, who do you think is taking home $62,000? Say it right now.
I'm not about to crush my reputation by spoiling it that soon. Nah, man. We got a whole weekend of action work to get through before we get to that point. If I had to say one team is going to win now, it's going to spoil the whole surprise at the end. Plus, I think everyone kind of wants to know, like, prediction by prediction, game by game, as opposed to just having me leak the script at the start. That's no fun for anybody.
Nah, not at all. But let's jump right into the action. First off, we're gonna have DarkZero facing off against Space Station Gaming. I cannot wait, but let's talk about the NA Major champs from last time around. It's gonna be DarkZero. This team has been something special. We all know them. We all have seen how calculated their strategies are. And you know what, Jesse? They've made a lot of changes around Stage 2. It was pretty significant compared to Stage 1. We saw a lot more free-flowing action. We saw a lot of players get more loose when it comes to their strategy. What have you noticed when you watch DarkZero play?
Yeah, I mean, I think people still kind of have this misconception about DarkZero with, you know, how they played in Stage 1. They are this very, maybe too rigid of a team that sometimes they get into a rhythm and they can't really break out of it. I think that over the course of Stage 2, you know, we've seen them break out of that a lot more than people give them credit for. This is something that I talked to Skies about as well before they walked into this major, that they feel this is one of their strengths and one area where they've really improved over the last 3 months, and they are able to break out of their shell a little bit more. So that's the main thing I'm going to be looking for DarkZero. There's a lot of challenges and a lot of curveballs being thrown at them so far in this weekend. They're playing on land. That's going to be a huge difference. The meta is a little bit different with glass being buffed and shields nerfed and all that stuff. And then, of course, you know, the elephant in the room, they haven't been practicing with their full 5 the last couple of days. So this is it's going to be a real test for DarkZero. I think there's a lot of differences from the regular season, and they're going to need to adapt to those.
Jacob, so piggybacking off of what Jesse just said, this is totally different now. Now that they're playing on land, there's a new meta, and Hyper hasn't been around, I believe, an entire week for practice. What's expected from DZ here today?
See, they're supposed to be playing in basically the same way that they've been the entirety of their Stage 2. Their expectation is that they're going to have that same performance. They're going to hold themselves to the same standard that they always have, despite all of those differences. And I think for them, a team like DarkZero, even though they've had land struggles in the past, it's probably only going to be a buff to DZ as opposed to something that might be considered negative. The thing that I'm a little concerned about is what Hyper is going to do for this team. It would have been BC, their head coach, stepping in Hyper's place if he were unable to compete, but Hyper has been such a backbone of DarkZero as of late. He's been the highest rated player over the course of Stage 2. He puts out lights out performances and yet hasn't been able to put in the required amount of practice time to know if he's going to be up to snuff. It's gonna come down to whether or not he's really in form, because if he hasn't been practicing recently, DarkZero might not be able to perform at the same level we expect.
Well, let's be completely fair. Whenever you look at Hyper's gameplay, sometimes it's like the saying, you never forget how to ride a bike, right? I think Hyper's gonna be okay, but just in case Hyper isn't the X factor for this roster today, what about Skies? Do you think he's gonna be special for this team?
Skies is always one of those guys that can step up to the plate. Even before he was on DarkZero, that's why he was such a good prospect. He's only been on this team for about a year, by the way. If you cast your mind all the way back to those finals in Japan and Tokoname, that was the last time Skies didn't play for DZ, and then he comes into this team and starts playing lights out. He's one of their top performers. He's always been consistent, and DarkZero, the last time they made a roster change was when they brought Skies and Eclipse onto this team. It's been nearly a full year with the exact same lineup, and their chemistry has been on point since then. It was a little bit of a bumpy start. If you cast your mind all the way back to USN 2019, that was where they had a little bit more of a struggle, but these days they are absolutely locked in, and I think Skies can absolutely be a forerunner if for some reason Hyper isn't.
Yeah, for those of you at home, you don't know what the players are, the first two on your screen was actually Hyper and then Skies. But let's talk about Space Station Gaming. The players are almost ready in the lobby right now, and Jesse, we've seen them struggle online, but when it came to land time, they were racking up trophies. What can we expect from Space Station Gaming today with the intensity of a LAN environment?
I think they're really going to step it up. You know, Space Station, the world champions, the last LAN that we've had for North American players was the 6th Invitational. That's where SSG claimed their title. And, you know, since then, and even before the 6th Invitational, we've always seen Space Station do a little bit worse online, whether it was Pro League before, the split of Pro League afterwards, where they did win a lot of their games, but they still had a lot of close matches. Or even beyond that, you know, playing inside of the NAL, they've never really been a great online team. So I think coming into this environment, being on that LAN build, it's not exactly the same because we don't have the crowd and everything, but it's still a huge difference from what you're used to playing online. I think Space Station are going to benefit greatly. Talking with their coach Lycan, he certainly thinks that that's going to be the case. So I'm really excited to see what Space Station bring out and how well they play on LAN.
Jacob, you heard that, right? So Space Station, a team that keeps it close to the chest. The games are always nail-biters. They won against DarkZero. What do you expect?
I mean, I'm not about to pull a prediction out of my butt just quite yet. We'll get there in just a minute. But Space Station, because of that recent struggle, I'm wondering whether or not their heads are actually truly in the game. It's taken them a little bit of time to really get 2020 figured out, and they had a very, very good start to the year, but ever since then, the back half of the year, they're still definitely within the slump. Like we touched on previously. They won the Invitational, they were first place in Season 11, then they couldn't win the August Major. Then when they came into November, they didn't get the auto invite from the top 3 spots in Stage 2. They had to go through the Major, and even that was a struggle. They've obviously had a lot more time to, continue to play games as a team, whereas DarkZero, it's been quite a while since they've played a game that mattered for anything in the North American League, so SSG have had a lot more time to play games that legitimately mean something, and they're probably going to be a little bit more red hot than DZ is. DarkZero's probably gone a little cold because of the amount of time they've spent not playing games thus far, so I think SSG have more momentum in their back pocket, but it could all go awry if DarkZero come out of the gate swinging.
You're definitely right. And now the X Factor for Space Station Gaming. Jesse, if you had to pick one player, who's it going to be?
There's one player that I've been thinking about pretty much nonstop last couple of weeks, and that's the 6th Invitational MVP, Rampy, for SSG. He was a little bit off, towards the end of Stage 2, in that second phase, when they ended up getting sent to the qualifier. Rampy was not quite there. You see him at the very back on your screen right now. Rampy wasn't doing everything that he could, and so when they came into the qualifier, Space Station implemented a couple of role changes. They moved Rampy from the sledge role over to Ash, they moved him to entry, and they put Faults back on that sledge role. And they played pretty well in the qualifier. Aside from that grand finals, they really did kind of crush every team they came up against, and so I was impressed by it. But talking to the team, they have reverted that attacking role change, so defensive role swaps are going to stay the same. But they're moving Rampy back onto that sledge roll. So I'm hoping that he can keep that consistency up, that he can keep up his really strong play, because he was a huge factor in their qualifier, and in my opinion, the biggest difference between what we saw at the end of Phase 2 versus the qualifier. I want to see him stepping up again.
All right, so now the maps are ready. You're going to see them right there on your screen. Jesse, you got the glasses on. You're the big brain of the group. What are your thoughts? Who won the map veto phase?
All right, well, I like Coastline for Space Station right off the bat. It's been very strong for them historically. This is where they 7-0'd Mirage in the qualifier. DarkZero haven't been here since the very first map of Stage 2, but they did win it 7-2. Then we get Cafe from DarkZero. We always play Cafe when these two have met. They've played it in every single series that they've come up across, and it's traded every single time. It rotates between who wins it. It is technically DarkZero's turn to win this map, so we'll see if that holds true. And then if we get to Villa, this is an odd one for the decider. I feel like this map favors Space Station quite heavily. It's their most played map of the NAL. They've been very dominant. DarkZero have played this map 5 times, and their only wins were an 8-7 against TSM and a 7-5 against United. So not strong results for DarkZero on that on Villa.
All right, so with what we've seen right here is prediction time. Jacob, last time around, you did okay with predictions, and you and Jesse made a bet in the background. Now, real quick, because the players are almost ready, chat, trust, we're going to start the game. Jacob, tell everyone what the bet is, and then let me know who you think is going to win this first series.
All right, the basic idea. The loser of the predictions bet, whoever gets the most predictions incorrect this weekend, is going to have to wear a t-shirt for the next, I don't even know, however long, probably sleep in it, that's got our face on it, and then once this broadcast is over, we got to start every sentence that we say, or the loser will, with something else that the other guy comes up with. So we have a little bit of personal pride on the line. It's not just, oh, I got more predictions wrong or more predictions right. In this case, I don't want to wear a shirt with Jesse's face. I'm pretty sure he doesn't want to wear a shirt with my face on it, because my face is the most photogenic thing in the world. But in terms of this matchup, I said this earlier in a video where I was talking about games, and I think that hot streak that SSG can ride from the qualifier, combined with the fact that I don't really know if DZ is going to be up to par with where we expect, at least for the first series, I think SSG is going to take this first one.
All right, Space Station Gaming for color, but Jacob, Jesse, is he out of his mind, or do you think DarkZero can still pull this out with minimal practice this last week?
Listen, if I lose a prediction battle to Caliber Jacob, I might just have to hang it all up. But for now, I think he's got a pretty good point. Space Station are a really good team despite coming in the 4th seed. I think nobody's going to enter into a tournament as the #1 seed and be happy to see they're going up against the world champions, DarkZero especially so. These are a great team, and they've got a winning record against every other US team except for Space Station, and so I think this is going to be a tough matchup for them. I talked to Like and I asked him, what is the secret? What is the, one big thing you're bringing in, one surprise that you're bringing to this qualifier? And he straight up said, you know what? we're just going to play good Siege on LAN. And that's what I like to hear. No bells, no whistles, no tricks, no games, no bull, no finishing that sentence. Okay? They are a good team. They're going to play some nice LAN Siege, and that's what I'm excited for. Space Station Gaming, the world champions, beating out DarkZero.
Jesse's getting hyped, so you know this game has to be good. But before we jump into the action, I want to ask you all a favor. Make sure, or pretty please, follow our social pages, Rainbow6NA. You can find out everything on Twitter, Instagram, what made you have it, updates about every single game, and also you can stay in touch with what's happening in the future. Now, I got one more thing to say before I throw this over to the casters, fellas. Do you guys think DarkZero has a 50-50 chance, or does it just look grim for them?
Okay, I mean, Veli, here's the thing, right? DarkZero are the North American champions. That's great. But Space Station are the world champions. And I'm no geography major, okay? But I think one of those encompasses the other. It's simple math.
Jesse had to break out the glasses for this one too, and just looks like the biggest dork on the planet. My God, man.
Jacob, hey, we're gonna find out. So let's see if your August NA Major Champions are gonna fare off well against the world champion Space Station Gaming. Make sure you follow the socials like I asked you. But now it's just about time. The players are just about ready. So for the first game for our major today, DarkZero and Space Station Gaming, casters, take it away.
Thank you so very much, Veli. I'm so pumped, Michael. It's been a while since we've been here. We're not on the same stage that the players are on. However, we get to enjoy each other's company, and we get to cast some kick-ass match.
Yeah, I think that this is going to be a really good one. If we're looking at this majors lineup right now, there really is no slouch in terms of the teams and thus in terms of the matches. I'm sure the loser bracket match will be also pretty exciting. So whoever takes the L here, you know, you still got that second chance to get back into the finals. It's just going to be the longer route.
Yeah, I mean, these teams have a seesaw style where DZ is now, I guess, favored to win this as it went SSG, then went DZ, now is back to SSG. So DZ is probably going to win this one as long as all is well in the world. Before we get into the match, though, we have our traditional community poll. Veli shouted it out. Follow us on our socials. R6 Esports NA is the Twitter account that you want to use. And the poll today is in a swap of placement from the last major. Who will continue to heat up going into our first match today? Is it going to be Hyper or Rampy? Go ahead and vote on Twitter. Much appreciated. I don't know, honestly, who it's going to be. I don't know going into this match what's going to happen. Hyper almost narrowly didn't end up playing today. There was some chatter on social media that Hyper had some non-COVID related health concerns and was questionable for the event. And he was cleared last night to the point where he said that he hadn't scrimmed with his team in over a week and a half. So not that I doubt Hyper's ability, but there could be a little bit of rustiness there. Not playing, not scrimming with your team for a week and a half might not have you up at the same speed as if you'd been scrimming every day. So we'll see from Hyper how well he's able to do. I have no doubt he'll compete.
Yeah, I think Hyper is going to be okay. The biggest thing in those situations is usually just mental. It's like, okay, I haven't been with my team for a week, and if that gets rooted into your brain, sometimes it can prevent you from playing at your peak. I think that these teams both have been playing together long enough that they understand what it is that needs to be done on a round-to-round basis. So if Hyper can push through that, I think he'll be okay. As for Rampy, Rampy and Hyper in a head-to-head, you really couldn't have picked two better players. Rampy has, as mentioned in the analyst desk, has been a bit of a hit-and-miss performer. But when Rampy hits, it's almost as if his opponent has no chance. It can kind of come off that way. So if today is Rampy's day, you see him smiling at the camera, then I think that SSG is going to have a pretty good performance here. Now, overall, I mean, if we're analyzing what we have to go on right now, which is really just a map ban phase, we talked about this in the analyst desk talked about this. We all talked about this before the show started. There was, I think, a pretty decisive win there for SSG in the ban phase. The maps are looking really solid for them. It's not overall like going to be a blowout here. There's still a chance for DZ. And one other thing to note is that DZ is the team who brings maps that you don't expect them to perform on and then performs on those maps. They've been able to do that even before they were known as DZ, although most of that original roster is pretty much gone at this point.
Yeah, DZ likes to bring things that we weren't expecting. Every team is going to do that on LAN. So this is not a unique thing. And for those that don't follow every single team in the Rainbow Six ecosystem or even in other esports, you tend to hide things, conceal them until they are the most powerful. And right now, bringing out new things that can possibly catch your opponent off guard when they haven't had time to counter-strat you, this is the time to do that. So for DarkZero, you look at a map like Coastline. They don't have a really long record on it, yet they're going into it against SSG in map number 1. These are two teams that I feel are unlikely to get outfoxed in the ban phase. So DZ very well knew Coastline was going to be a possibility. They've got to be prepared for it. You look at the scoreline in the history of maps, it was talked about briefly by the analysts on the desk, and it's basically Cafe and Villa over and over and over again until we're blue in the face. Well, guess what maps 2 and 3 are going to be between these teams? Cafe and Villa. Coastline is going to be the real question mark here, and I like that we're starting off on it because we can get a good understanding after Coastline of where this series is heading. This is a traditionally strong map for Space Station. They seem very well practiced on it. But if there's a single team in North America that's going to dissect and pick apart every little small detail of anything you do on any bomb site, it's going to be DarkZero. So SSG is going to have to switch things up from what they've done on Coastline, because the old tried and true, it might work against other teams. It's probably not going to work against DarkZero in the major. You got to make some changes here, and DZ will be prepped and ready.
You know, there's another interesting thing that we haven't really talked about when it comes to the ban phase. It's the maps that were banned initially by both teams. SSG banned Consulate, which is one of the maps that they've been playing more frequently lately, but haven't had the most success on, winning it about 40% of the time. DZ banned Theme Park. Now, DZ's first ban for a lot of series recently has been Theme Park. It's their most banned map, and they haven't played it in a long time. DarkZero does not want to play Theme Park, or so it seems. Now, we were talking about hiding maps for when they're most important. It's possible that DZ is playing the long con with that Theme Park. We've seen them do it before at many lands. It's possible that later down the line in this major, whether it be in the loser bracket or down in the finals, wherever, we might see DZ whip out the Theme Park. I would be interested to see if that were to happen, or if it really just is a map that they don't want to touch.
It could be. I mean, we've seen a couple different examples of teams that have strategically hid maps, and then whether it be because they end up in the finals and a best of 5 means that you can't hide 2 maps that you don't want to play, or whether you were ready for it and you bring it out and it's a bit of a surprise, it's entirely possible. I wouldn't be too surprised to see a Theme Park pop up. The finals, if DZ makes it that far, will be a best of 5. Each team will get 1 ban, that's it, and then the 5th map is going to get knocked out because of the winner's advantage. Does DZ end up picking Theme Park in that way? Unlikely, but who knows? I think it's interesting that Space Station banned Consulate. Like you said, they've been playing it more frequently. They went up against DG on Consulate. You remember that very interesting play that I think turned the tide of the series for a moment was when Canadian got triple EMP'd down in Archives when he was trying to Nitro sell tellers. I think that knocked a lot of the wind out of the sails of Space Station, and they struggled to keep up with a team like Disrupt. Now, no slight to DG, but DarkZero is indisputably a better team than Disrupt. So Space Station are going to have to be sharper, because SSG went into that DG matchup to get here in the qualifiers. As we recall, it was DZ who was qualifying through the qualifiers last major. Now it's Space Station. In order for Space Station to get here, it was a nail biter between them and Disrupt, and they could have very easily lost that matchup despite going in with a 1 map advantage and what I would say was a favorable map pool. So I think SSG needs to be really strong at the gate. If they struggle here on Coastline, I think that might be curtains for Space Station in this match. But I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. We've got a match to play, and we'll be ready in just a moment. Still just waiting on the teams to be ready. So we appreciate your patience.
Yeah, so I mean, that is the thing that kind of has been somewhat swept under the rug. If you weren't paying attention during the actual regular season of the US division, then you won't have noticed that DarkZero actually finished first in the US division of the NAL, and that was a big win for them. That was a huge, significant moment. They were followed up by TSM and Oxygen in second and third. Space Station took home 4th from the US division, and that was, I think, an underperformance for what the expectations on the world champion shoulders are. So that's pretty significant. It's worth keeping in mind. Going into this match, you know, with SSG losing out to Oxygen and TSM and taking fourth as a result, they actually didn't play the only other team in their group, DarkZero. So having not played DarkZero through that, you know, they didn't get to go on the full sweep and lose to everyone. So there's definitely a chance here for, again, a more close competition. All that said, though, all of the preamble now finally done. We can put it to bed. We have map number 1, Coastline, ready to play, and we'll be loading on in. DarkZero will be starting on attack, and Space Station on defense.
Michael, let's get the NA Major started. I hope all of you in chat, whether you're watching this live or later on down the road, you are ready for what is going to unfold. We've got 3 matches for you today. Of course, Space Station and DarkZero will take center stage as our first match. After that, Oxygen versus TSM in what will be a rematch from the last week of Stage 2 play. And then the loser of this match and the loser of that match of OXG versus TSM will fight for survival in the third and final match of the day. Operator bans, Ace and Ying so far on attack. Now, if you've been following along with what's going on in the test server, Operation Neon Dawn was revealed during the EU Major last week. It also not just displayed Aruni, the new operator, but a whole whack of changes that I think we can confidently say will at least usher out the 20-second meta for now. One of those operators who's seen a substantial amount of changes is Wamai. He'd lost his deployable shield. He's losing 1 magnet. Jaeger also got some changes. But the key difference here is that we're not playing on that build. So this matchup is going to be decided based entirely upon the current meta that we've played all of Stage 2 through. We'll see what changes that meta bring in when we get there over the next stage of play, be it next year, etc. But for now, let's close out the 20-second meta here in North America with things remaining the same. SSG has had some struggles in that meta. DZ has looked really good in it. For SSG on their very first round, they're going to bring a mix of the old reliable, which we have to speak about, which is the Mute Mozzie meta that they used to thrive in, versus some of the denial meta that we have present with Melusi and Jaeger.
Yeah, so the defensive setup looking pretty darn standard. Interesting that they go to Hookah first. Sometimes we'll see it be Kitchen as the primary site. Not so here for SSG, though. On Coastline, really, that's not the largest of considerations. The sites that you want to go to are going to remain the same, generally speaking, and you'll have similar performances on each of them. Really, when it comes to defense, the main thing is normally the early engagements, and that, I think, supersedes what site you're on. It's the roamers who are going to be defining the early game of each of these rounds. So SSG setting up Hookah, pretty standard. There's nothing at all surprising going on here in terms of the holes, the rotates made, the reinforcements. There will be a roam downstairs. Eclipse's drone does somewhat manage to evade Fultz. Looks like it's going to persist in storage. That can be used for great information later on. Fultz, in particular, is actually hunting drones. His mission right now, as he seems to be performing it, is to find drones and deny information, slow down that roam clear. The pre-placed drones from DZ, though, remain in play and will really expedite this process.
Very aggressive start at the moment. Some small changes have been made very recently, which was in regards to the sites getting swapped around. And well, if you've been frozen in time and you look at the reticles that are being used, you might be a little bit confused. Hyper and Fultz almost engaging in the first bit of action just a minute into the round. SSG has really favored a strong presence over by the main stairs and in the main lobby. This is something that if you've watched their Coastline matches, you will know is quite familiar. Oftentimes, you end up with a rotate in the back of theater. You've got somebody playing inside a penthouse, and you can hold that position and watch very easily down below if the bomb site happens to be Kitchen. It's not the case, obviously. The bomb site is going to be over by Hookah. As you touched upon, some teams will start with Kitchen. We have seen Double Bar come in as well a couple times from Space Station. They are very comfortable on basically everywhere but Penthouse Theater, like most teams.
We've seen some Penthouse Theater, though. I think the last time you and I casted a Coastline match, there was actually a Penthouse Theater. It was really interesting because you get a little bit of variety, and sometimes it will upset the way teams play. I don't have a perfect memory on that. Either way, what we do know right now is the DZ is placing most of their emphasis on Sunrise Bar and Hookah. They've already gotten below control underneath Hookah and are opening up underneath, making sure there's nobody in the site. Suns and Ash charges being thrown into the site to try and clear out ADSs and destroy obstacles, which will make the execution onto the site much easier. There's still plenty of time for DZ, and since they also have the first pick, they are in the driver's seat here. So everything looking a little bit desperate for SSG, especially considering they've already used a good chunk of their smokes.
Now, a lot of damage being done to Space Station. Goodness gracious. Fultz, Bosco, and Thinking Nade, all a little worse for wear. Some damage done to Hot and Cold on Balcony, but DZ's reign of terror will continue. They're just finding kill after kill after kill. Nobody from SSG can even buy a single one. That puts Thinking Nade with a tiny portion of HP to fight against the Horde, but a flawless round and a flawless start from DarkZero. That's a good tempo to define this game, and DZ is going to be very happy with that.
So, with the first round done, we'll move on. Yeah, I think that sets the tone for this match, or so it seems. You can see the smiles on DarkZero's faces. The first round really does matter a lot, especially in matches where you know your opponent really well. And I know that might sound counterintuitive, but it's always a new measure when you're comparing yourself once again to your old adversary, especially at lands like these. So big change there for, not big change, but big tone there set for DZ. That is, however, a coastline attack. And as many of you may know, coastline is typically an attacker favored map. So it's not the end of the world for SSG. They'll move on to Kitchen and see what they can do here.
This is SSG's map pick, and DZ opted to start on attack. I think that tells you a pretty good story about where this map sits in terms of attack versus defense, as more often than not, every team is going to opt to start on defense, with the exception of Coastline. The way that SSG holds that map on defense means that oftentimes their players aren't as well supported as some of their other structured defenses. The one that comes to mind as being probably the most cohesive defense of theirs is the double bars and the way they play around Mira, and the way that they situate the mirrors both upstairs or off-site inside of Kitchen, and then one Mira window played facing blue bar from Sunrise, protected by the couch in the corner. And oh, would you look at that? That's exactly where it is on your screen. There's obviously no mirror there, but pretend there's a mirror window and pretend that they're defending double bars, because I'm talking about an entirely different bomb site right now. But the point I was making about Hookah is that SSG has a very strong team that have playmaking potential on their own. This is something that all four of the teams that are competing in this major can very confidently say. The problem with a map like Coastline on defense is that you can get pinched if you're trying to return to the bomb site very easily. Somebody downstairs, a Buck or a Zofia down below, they've got a lot of influence and a lot of power, and Eclipse and Skies are both perfectly capable of playing that Buck down underneath if required. That means that for SSG, it can be a foolish endeavor to try to retake from the top. It also means that if somebody's down below, they can watch Courtyard, which is the easiest flank route for anybody on defense. That Courtyard can be a death sentence for a defender trying to come back. With that said, we're a minute into the action here on round number 2, and we'll see if SSG can hold off better this time on a Kitchen defense.
Look at this setup right now from SSG. They've got a duo roam upstairs. They were going to rotate Thinking Aid based on where DZ starts attacking, but DZ is committed to this top floor clear. And the drones are being mowed down. Now, that is actually crucial that those drones didn't gather much information other than where the Melusi was. So now that the Wub is destroyed, DZ can start working on the walls. Habana X Gyros going out there. There's the Yana clone gathering information on Theater. DarkZero is getting a wealth of information from that Yana. It's a good pick for them so far. They haven't found Fultz, though, who is hiding behind the dresser, and the drone won't even check. So Fultz's location might still be unknown. That could change the flow of this round. We'll see when the actual take onto the top floor happens. There it is. There's the kill that Fultz was fishing for. Hyper goes down, and his bid to stay hidden in Master works out.
That's a bit of negligence on behalf of the droners, though. I mean, you should have been able to check that location. Yeah. You know that Space Station loves to play Penthouse Theater, and hiding behind that armoire, dresser, wardrobe, whatever you want to call it, in whatever part of the world you live in, that is a very common spot. So Fultz getting to sit there and not going checked, no engagement at all from DarkZero. And as you can see, Foltz doesn't have to give up a single thing. He manages to get back to the bomb site. This makes the job a lot harder for DarkZero. They're down an incredibly important part of their strategy, which is the Zofia. Concussions are gone, explosives are gone. Additionally, Hyper cannot play above nor transition over towards service or even push down Cool Vibe stairs. This leaves Eclipse as the one to tackle the challenge above, and he will do a pretty decent job of it so far, making sure that for SSG, they're able to narrowly avoid this. Rampy guns down Sky's diffuser, surrendered by the window in the kitchen, and SSG are in great shape. They're going to swing themselves. 2 kills for Rampy in a row. Eclipse inside of the courtyard. He picks off 1, but that's it. Very narrowly a flawless round for Space Station. It's only a single kill for DZ that stops it. But what a way to answer back the early advantage that DZ had.
That kill from Foltz really did set it for SSG. We talk about those early engagements and how they define rounds. That's a good example there. So nice play from Foltz, gotta say. Impressive stuff for him. Although you said it yourself, Parker, it really is, in the end, the fault of DarkZero for not doing their due diligence when clearing out the top floor. You could also make an argument that, in general, clearing out the top floor, that's a really risky prospect on a kitchen defense these days. We've seen so many examples of rounds where, oh yeah, the attack gets to control above kitchen and then loses the round. And why? Because, yeah, you can open up above the anchors, but you can play kitchen off-site. There is plenty of retake potential, especially if the attack has not shut down the Sunrise bar. And in this, well, not in this case, in the last round's case, DZ failed to shut down the Sunrise bar. The top floor clear did not really amount to much in the way of advantage, and they even lost a player to negligence. So we'll see if DZ can correct their course here, but it's just one round, you know, small potatoes in the marathon. We'll see if the Mira setup is actually going to work out for SSG also. That's a really interesting one. They put it over by
hold on a second here.
Default plan.
Michael, potatoes aren't in marathons.
I mean, you know, you can smash the idioms a little bit if you want, Parker.
Michael, you're smashing all the idioms right now.
Yes, I'm taking 2 of them and just clicking them together like Legos. Just like that. Just like that. That's how it sounds.
That is literally an audio representation of what you're doing with the idioms, because potatoes, they don't run races.
I mean, that's not necessarily true.
Have you ever seen a potato run a marathon?
Yes.
You're lying.
In a matter of speaking. In a matter of speaking, I have.
Where have you seen a potato run a marathon?
I'm not gonna. Well, I don't want to get into detail because I think we're thinking of different types of potatoes here. But what is interesting is how SSG has set up above the site here. They're actually gonna be using a castle barricade to make this a little bit stronger on the top floor. Yeah, I can't. I mean, we're talking about different types of potatoes.
You could have very easily said,
talking about the literal
I've seen
potato.
you run a marathon.
I didn't want to. I've not seen you run a marathon. See, that would be lying.
No way, full swings on that. What a transition back into action. The UMP put to good work. Mint goes down, and Nitro Cell nearly claims Eclipse as well, who's getting picked away at, or as he rather picks away at Fultz's feet. So the Buck right now doesn't need to challenge anything. Fultz finished off by good teamwork from DarkZero, called out earlier on by Eclipse, and Skies is able to happily finish what was started by the Buck. Hyper now in pursuit of Rampy, who's got his back turned to him, playing upstairs inside of the pink bar. He'll govern over all of those various potent potables, if you want to call it that. As Rampy on the ground waits for the 2 members of DarkZero. Can he take one down? No. He misses his opportunity onto Hyper. No damage done. Some done to Hot and Cold. A minute left to go, and there goes some of the floor, and DZ need to be very wary of where they walk for the remainder of this round, but they have a 1-player advantage, and they'd like to very much carry that on over for the remainder of the 50 seconds.
I'm going to use their considerable soft destruction to open up above the SSG defense. DarkZero are going to put all of these anchors into really precarious positions, forcing the repo over and over and over again. Now, the cool thing about this, though, is that with only 30 seconds left, SSG, if they can stay alive, they might be able to win this on the objective. But look at that. Hyper takes down Thinking Nate in Kitchen. And now it's all on Bosco and Canadian. They have to hold out with only 20 seconds left. Their main objective denying the plant, and they will down Houghton and finish him off. That's great for Canadian. But will it be the win? The drop is being watched, but the timing is perfect for the Zofia of Hyper to come up from behind. Now all on Bosco. He'll get one. He only has 2 shots. He'll have to land them perfectly on both of these players. There's the second. Will it be the third? No, but the time will win it out for SSG, and they'll take round number 3.
He downs the Zofia, and nobody from DarkZero can get there quite fast enough. And I think that the comms were likely chaotic at the tail end of that round. And when you only have 5 seconds to make a pivot happen, well, it's awfully hard for you to go through 2 entire rooms, especially when you can't push with impunity. With this being the LAN build, you can't swing and peek the same way. There's no real ghosting. You don't have to really worry about latency. The peeker's advantage that exists online is virtually gone. Or I guess technically it's not virtual, it would be practical.
Yeah.
Practically gone.
It's considerably, it's a different game.
The final end of that round, after how strong of an entry DarkZero has, it all ends up becoming undone. This is a round where SSG takes the lead on that Fultz kill. He gets minimal information, he takes a gamble on the swing on the Yana, and it pays off. That was essentially a 50-50 for Fultz, because he very easily could have lost that to the Yana of Mint if Mint had been fully prepared for it. Would have been Mint's first kill. He's had some trouble finding the scoreboard so far. He's the only player in this lobby who's had those troubles. If Mint wins that, the round goes very much in a different way, because the clear on defaults that came in from Eclipse inside of VIP and then finished off by Skies over by Ruins took about 30 seconds, give or take. That's time that you wouldn't have needed to dedicate, and you also would have had a Yana in play who has access to grenades. And from the lineup that DZ had, Buck doesn't have grenades anymore, so the explosives from DarkZero disappeared when Mint died. The rest of that round was just a pretty bog standard clear up top. DarkZero was able to flush out billiards, they were able to move through Pink Bar, and then just pressure down on the bars below. Everything worked out in their favor, and like I said, that tends to be one of the more cohesive sites for SSG. Now, obviously, it was a little bit different than we'd seen before. Bosco playing the smoke on that tight angle ended up saving the round for them. But it came pretty close, and DarkZero, honestly, they had 5 more seconds, and they could have made it work. Now, Fultz is the swing master. 2 rounds in a row, he manages to get this opening pick. He punishes Skies on Repel. DarkZero, your Soul Hard Destructor is down. Diffuser dropped by the main door / window, and now Fultz is going to be hunted down by Hyper.
Yeah, DarkZero is going to be missing that Ash. And most importantly, that removes a huge part of your attacking lineup in terms of the control that you're trying to put out. So the reason you put somebody on White Stairs Repel is to cut off the roam as you clear it. DarkZero now has to reconsider how they actually want to clear the roam, or if they want to at all. Looks like they're going to be positioning a drone hoping that'll compensate, but Fultz hears it, and he'll just shoot it. So that's a huge pick, and it probably will. I know that it might seem like early in the round to most people, but considering the position of the kill, the control that is lost for DZ, that probably will win the round for SSG, unless DZ pulls out a miraculous play here. Now, there's definitely a chance that that will happen, especially considering there are a lot of roamers right now. If DZ chooses to hit the site early, they might catch these anchors off guard. Nice shot there. Hyper eats some damage, but not a kill. Bosco's still fishing for it, and he'll lose out. So the frag is answered back by DarkZero.
Great waste of time, and now Fultz is going to spring out. Does he have time to get this one? No, there's nobody there. He absorbs some damage, looks too low, but they're above him. So he'll have to get back in, but they know that he's been somewhat isolated as he'll be over by the main lobby. Eclipse's ascent up the Cool Vibe stairs will be slowed for a time by the Banshee, and well, there goes a Nitro cell, but the Buck manages to survive, so thinking Nade will push up on his own. The Buck is distracted over by the play towards Courtyard, which is where Fultz is eventually going to come from, as we'd said that his position had been given away by the runout. Mint down by Rampy, not expecting thinking Nade on the Cool Vibe stairs. Eclipse is punished, and DarkZero will now need to align themselves with the remainder of the SSG players. They are doing just a perfect job of that, aligning themselves right into the crosshairs of Space Station, so not the result that they'd wanted, leaving Hyper in a virtually unwinnable situation. The diffuser's in the middle of the bomb site, and there will be everybody from SSG who will be eagerly awaiting the advance of the best player for DarkZero so far in this matchup. He gets done and dusted. A perfect cycle from Space Station. They take 3 rounds in a row and now hold a 3-1 lead.
Well done to Space Station, answering in the first round that they lost with 3 consecutive rounds. That's a really good result. It all started that round with the early pick from Faults. Taking down the Ashe on White Stairs, where Pell was massive because it cut off all of the rotation cutoff, and it allowed the roamers to do pretty much whatever they wanted to. Because of that freedom, we saw DZ shift their focus. They're like, okay, well, we're not going to deal with the roamers directly. Let's try and hit the site. The problem really happened, I think, mostly when DZ did not swiftly execute. They kind of set up, posted up, looked for kills on repels through long angles, and they got one. Hyper did get a kill on a repel, but that's mostly because Bosco handed it to DarkZero, to be honest. And from there, everything started falling apart for the attack. So, Space Station, a very well-conducted defensive cycle. And now we're going to go ahead and wait till we have everything sorted out. Not sure what is going on exactly. And we'll... Tactical timeout sounds like. Okay, so that's interesting. I don't know whose, but somebody called a tactical timeout and we'll be resuming shortly.
I can understand why you'd take a timeout here. DarkZero are in a bad shape at the moment heading into the second half. We talked about it at the start of this map that you want to be on attack on coastline. It's where you tend to be most comfortable. For DarkZero, it's not all troubling signs at the moment. This is Space Station's map. A lot of times in best of threes, teams go in understanding it doesn't matter what map the opponent picks. You have to win your map and then the tiebreaker. Obviously, with the tiebreaker being Villa, it's an SSG favored map, so you know that DZ are going to want to put up a good fight on coastline, a spirited fight. The first round for DZ was great. They get the first kill. It's a flawless round. They had control of every little part of the map. Since then, Space Station woke up and have dominated. They've got the opening duel, 2 of which going to Fultz. They've won all 3 rounds. They managed to finally prevail on Hookah after they'd struggled to do so in the very first round, and now the cycle begins anew, with Kitchen being up for round number 5, and then the final defense for SSG likely being double bars if SSG wins here. Now, the hard part for DarkZero is that conventional wisdom suggests you don't want to go on to defense when you're trailing. You want to rack it up as much as you can on attack and then watch your lead slowly disappear. There is a pretty topical real-world event that we can compare that to, but I'm not going to. Because, you know, you go to bed, Michael, and SSG is leading, and then you wake up and DZ's in the lead, and what happened? You have no idea. Anyway. DZ know that this is a problem, and they're going to need to try to right the ship, because 1 round away, SSG takes the lead in the first half, and then that's probably going to snowball. SSG have shown that they're a good team on coastline on attack. It's a favorable side. It's SSG's map. DZ are already in quite a bit of trouble. This round, to me, in particular, this is do or die. And if DZ want any hope of being able to keep pace with SSG, this is where it needs to turn.
It's if SSG takes the 4-2 half on defense, it's not that far-fetched to say that they'll take the map. And if they take coastline, then, you know, we talked about this at the lead-in. Villa really, truly is an SSG map. That means that even if SSG loses on Cafe, when we get to that third and final, it's likely going to be a known result already. So the pressure's really on DZ's shoulders here, unless they've got something miraculous to show us on Villa that we've not really seen from them before. Early roaming from SSG by the Sunrise Bar is being pressured by the Zofia. Oh, big miss from both players. Hyper, though, will win it out. Nope, sorry, it's Mint, the second player in Mud, to get the kill onto Rampy. No matter what, though, control established. Now, Rampy did his job partially. He did actually delay quite a lot by the Sunrise Bar, but he didn't get any damage or a kill from this position. So ultimately, that's a win for DZ. They get the ball rolling on this attack.
This is what they desperately needed. Just anything to kind of blunt the momentum of SSG, who've looked very comfortable. They've played loose off site. They've been as structured as you come to expect. And there's very little to praise for DarkZero so far through these 4 rounds. This one, though, shaping up to be the polar opposite. But SSG are moving together, and, well, Hot and Cold decides to greet them with open arms. 2 easy picks for him. That just absolutely decimates SSG's numbers. And they are quite far off the bomb site. Bosco will have to contend on his own while Canadian does the work upstairs. Nobody from DarkZero has died yet. Just as I say that, down goes Hyper. Bosco with one, Canadian gets spotted. Great play from him to knock down Mint, and he'll move towards the main lobby, but Eclipse is there waiting. Bosco now in a 1v3. He won it before. Can he do it again? No, Eclipse punishes him. DarkZero finally managed to get another round on the board. Celebration from their coach, BC, and a do-or-die / must-win round to try and salvage the first half breaks in favor of DarkZero.
Yeah, SSG retaking together and dying together there on that top floor. Well done to Hot and Cold. Big round from him. Eclipse also sweeping it up in the end. But yeah, you said it yourself, Parker. This is really salvage at this point for DZ. That's why BC is so enthusiastically trying to hype his players up. It's because it's essential that DarkZero win these last rounds in the first half. Otherwise, second half is going to be quite difficult. There were some interesting little tidbits in that round. Like, for example, we saw one of the SAS operators use their C4 for rotate. I think it was Canadian on mute. And he did that so he could bring the MP5K instead of the shotgun and still do his portion of the soft destruction as SSG, I'm sure, had, practiced. That was a fun little tidbit because that means that Canadian's a little bit more versatile when he's roaming, which is exactly what he did on the mute. And we saw the overall roam was more centered on top, but because DZ did not hit the top floor directly, that wasn't a problem for them in the end. The biggest issue for SSG's defense was really Rampy dying without actually putting up that much of a fight by Sunrise Bar. Yeah, he wasted some time, but not enough, and more importantly, he didn't do any actual physical damage to his opponents before losing control of his assigned position. Would have been cool to see him do a little bit more there, or have somebody from SSG rotate, but there just wasn't a window for that rotation because DZ was so swift through mud.
So now some small change-ups with how this is going to work out. SSG goes back to the double bar, and this is a structure that we've seen from them on very comfortable operators. Rampy and the Vigil, it's like apple pie in America, Michael. Bosco and Mira, it's like apple pie in America. Fultz on Maestro. Michael, what is it like?
Apple pie in America.
There you go. It just goes hand in hand. So SSG are going to go back to one of their most comfortable and familiar defenses on this double bar site, allowing Fultz to play unmanned inside of kitchen and over by bathroom. And of course, with the Alda, he has punished teams from that position before. DarkZero's first step is going to be to clear out up top of Circle, clear up top of Penthouse Theater, and then take control of Hookah. And well, look at that. Mint is already positioned up above. Skies is going to be holding on to the diffuser this time. There's been some juggling from DarkZero as to who gets it. But a Nitro Cell from Bosco tossed up and Mint disappears. Was that through the floor? It sure seems like it, but...
It was, right there.
Very, very beautifully tossed. And not expecting it at all is Mint. That is a Giga Brain play. And with that, your smokes are gone, and Mint will finish the first half with but a single kill. It also gives SSG the opening pick, and right now the team that gets the opening pick has a 100% round victory rate. So SSG must be feeling pretty good about that one.
Yeah, those little cheeky kills are what can sometimes win you matches. Nice setup from SSG, and DZ just not seeing that hole in the floor. Unfortunate for them. Now, they will be able to get that top floor control, though. DarkZero is going to be opening above these anchors, forcing them into less comfortable positions. But the last time we were here, what was it that destroyed DZ's attack in the end? It was the time. There just wasn't enough of it. DarkZero rushed into the site with 20 seconds, and they couldn't get all the kills that were necessary to win. So that is what DZ needs to change in these last 40 seconds.
Very strong position from Eclipse above. He'll be able to hold off most of the routes that SSG will need to retake, providing that DZ is able to go for a plant. And if Eclipse gets found out, then this gets very bad for DarkZero. Skies is on but a tiny bit of HP as Rampy falls to Hyper, and now there goes the plant. But there goes Skies as well. He's dropped by the Maestro Cam of all things. Eclipse will have to abandon his position from above, and DZ's control is slowly loosening. Canadian finds another, so DarkZero will have even harder odds to make this happen, and it becomes simply a 3v1 reverse from the last defense on double bar, but this time it's DZ who are trailing in numbers. Eclipse will have to wander down cool vibes, and they're only bad vibes for him and for DarkZero as Space Station takes the first half 4-2.
DarkZero, when we said salvage the first half, we didn't mean make sure you at least get 2 rounds. We were hoping for that 3-3, and this is just really good for Space Station. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are in the driver's seat now for Coastline. This is a drastic position for DarkZero to find themselves in. And again, this is going to call into question these next maps that we have lined up on Cafe, and if we get to it, Villa. So really well done to Space Station, taking those 4 rounds. Again, as stated earlier, you could sometimes win rounds off of just cheeky C4s like the one we just saw from Space Station early in that one. And they did. So the 100% win rate for the team that gets the early frag will continue. Now DarkZero has the uncomfortable prospect of defense ahead of them, and we'll see if they can make some miracles happen here.
Do you believe in miracles, Michael?
I mean, I believe that cool things can happen.
Do you believe in Miracle Whip, Michael?
That does exist, yes. I
Do
do
you
know
believe
that.
in the tangy zip of Miracle Whip?
I have never had it, so I cannot judge. I believe that it's got a tangy zip. If that's part of their like ad campaign, then probably. But you know, I don't know how it is tangy. Like maybe it's in a bad way. There's a good and there's a bad tang. So.
Oh no. This stream is not sponsored by Miracle Whip, but Miracle Whip is outstanding.
Is it?
Yes.
I'll try it sometime then. I will buy some.
There you go. You need to.
Thank you.
SSG will now go on to attack, by the way, as we... There's no idioms to mash. There's no banter to be had. And, well, would you look at that? DZ is a similar lobby presence to what we saw out of SSG. They don't have a rotate at their disposal for the moment. Malusi has a nitro cell, so you can do your best SSG impression and use a nitro cell, which, by the way, we just totally glossed over the fact that Canadian used a nitro cell to open the rotate in a kitchen on their last kitchen defense, so...
I mentioned it.
Yeah, but we glossed over it.
Oh.
We glossed.
No, see, the reason he did that, though, is so he could bring the MP5K, which makes him a more versatile roamer.
No, I know.
Yeah, and so he could, like... The setup could still be done as practice. I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
This lineup on attack from SSG is quite familiar. DZ, we don't have the same kind of data to go off of what they like to bring on their defense, but nothing seems to be outside of the norm here. On a hookah defense, Goyo is quite an acceptable operator, especially how you want to use those shields. If you're going to set them up to fall back, well, then you can put them over by Aqua, you can put them over by the door to hookah, you can set them by the door from hookah into the hallway. You can even use them off site if you so choose, and then hit them and run as best as you can. DZ, obviously, I really like this setup from them, and they are very prepared for a bottom floor take. They know that when you're defending hookah, there's going to be somebody with soft destruction that's going to go down below. Very likely it will be Rampy. And there you can hear it. It sounds like the Buck is putting in great work, and you can see all the debris down below as both he and Fultz are working on doing as much damage as possible.
He's doing a lot, that's for sure. Space Station have managed to isolate hookah, but it's being held off of the actual hookah position. DarkZero are, in base, as is typical. By the bar, as is typical. And they're going to be trying to deny from there. Nice C4 there will push Rampy back, but not actually get the kill, rendering him down to 25 HP. And he will take Hyper, who was trying to flank Rampy. False will also get Skies, meaning DZ now is down 2 members. The stuns have blinded Eclipse, and he will try to persist. The nade goes in and finishes him off. Now it's all on Hot and Cold and Mint, and with 30 seconds left, Space Station are in no rush whatsoever. Hot and Cold with the SMG out. Here's the plant by the door. Nice shot onto Cool Vibes, but there's a backup player, and the man advantage wins out for SSG. They will take the first attack of the second half.
Well, 7 rounds in, and I think that might be the closest we've seen to the objective actually being played. So the old kill house mantra of Coastline is holding up just fine. Still no diffuser being planted, no disabling needing to be done, and for the 7th round in a row, the team that gets the opening pick has won the whole thing. Bucking our usual trend of about 70 to 80%, this time much more definitive. So what did SSG do well there? Well, a lot, actually. DarkZero's setup was strong. I liked the way that they were trying to hold the bars down below. I liked that they were trying to hold the entrance towards from Mud into Sunrise. Unfortunately for them, it was exploited by SSG because they knew exactly how to respond to it. If you're going to open up the hatch and play it aggressively, you know that somebody's going to be on that spot. You can put somebody down there from SSG, and with this being LAN, you're far more likely to hit your shots if somebody's swinging against you than if you're online, where it's very likely you're going to get smoked and you're not going to see who's shooting at you. For DZ, their setup as well towards the back of Billiards left them a little bit boxed in. That Goyo shield went really early. That was a key piece of SSG's explosive arsenal that was used to take care of the deployable shield. And then it forced DarkZero off of their comfortable spots. They lost those 2 early gunfights. The F-17 or the F-17, depending on how you want to call it, that's being brought by Thinking Nade is a very powerful gun, and it's got a great scope on it. Lion is obviously a staple operator on Coastline for a lot of teams. The Sonics really like him. SSG really likes him as well. And he works effectively if you're playing off-site aggressively, which DZ is going to do. We saw the roaming duo that DZ had over by Penthouse and Theater, and it's unlikely that those are going to be assisted by mute jammers, which is the greatest tool that you as a defender have to not get scanned by Lion's gadget. If those mute jammers are sitting on site, yeah, you'll be able to keep your anchors fine, but DZ suffered by the entry from SSG. So we see something a little bit weird for round number 8, which is going to be a defense of Penthouse and Theater. You don't see that every single day, but this is a setup that would be very much at home 2 years ago.
Yeah, way back in the day when Mira had just come out on Coastline, you saw this site quite a lot. It was the primary site, and if you go down far enough in the ranks, I think it still is the primary site, though I haven't checked on that in a while. So this is, not gonna be impossible as the setups go, and DarkZero is really just looking for something to upset SSG's winning here. I think that's most of why we're seeing Penthouse. It's clear that SSG have a lot of strategy on this map, and DarkZero are the less equipped team, and so they will try to trip up their opponent in a way. Now, this could have happened even if DZ were in the lead going into the second half, but right now it is really important that DZ pick up a round or 2 here or there to put them in contention for this map. Currently, Hyper is being hunted. He's the primary focus of SSG. You could see them droning him out and shifting to collapse upon him. The EE1D is going to be very useful for this. He'll push through it, knowing that he has no choice, and Mint will even assist in taking out Rampy by security. So it's a bait from DarkZero. Hyper knowingly exposed himself to that EE1D so that Mint could get the kill on the other side of the roam. That's a nice little thing there for DZ to do, and it gives them the man advantage early on.
Fultz is now going to have to run head first into this defense that is hunkered down in the back of the A-bomb site, but there should go one of the Black Mirrors as Canadian repels on in. A Nitro Cell will very likely await him, and there it is. He loses a lot of HP, but they've got smokes, they've got grenades, they're going to toss it all out. Skies drop, but Canadian in the plume of smoke will be finished off by Hot and Cold. Good throw from DZ. Bosco now tagged in to try and get that diffuser down. It's just him and Thinking Nade, and he'll have to fall off as it's DZ with an iron grip on this defense. SSG fires back. Hot and Cold turns his back to the mirror window with only 15 seconds left. His position is known, and it's an even 3-3 from above. Bosco punishing Mint, and now he'll need to go for the plant as it's Thinking Nade, and SSG have so much control, but there goes the diffuser. Hyper is DZ's last hope. He'll need to hide inside a VIP. Thinking Nade stopped by the Malusi. He'll fire away, and they'll both just fire their guns for no reason. They can't get each other so close for Space Station, but the trend line holds. DZ wins the round, and again, the team that gets the opening pick goes on to win it all.
What an excellent try there from Bosco. I almost thought he would have it in the end, but well-timed from the Jaeger. The flank in the nick of time. Hyper, I believe it was, who ended up shutting down that plant. Beautiful job. DZ managed to win it on objective play, and the time, we've seen that be a thing for both teams. The setup for SSG was solid, though, and it looked like they read the situation correctly. Reading that, okay, there's plenty of roamers. We can hit the site direct. Let's go ahead and do it. After they got rid of the mirror window, it was pretty much just, hopefully we don't die to utility. And enough of that utility from DZ was poorly placed to make the push into the site actually pretty viable. So, I don't know. I think that was... well set up from SSG, well read from Bosco in particular, and DZ just narrowly taking it on the clock. That could have easily swung the other way. I especially like, also, before I forget to actually mention this, the roam combo was beautiful for DZ. Between, again, I think it was Hyper and Mint. That was some really smart play to actually use the Lion against Space Station.
Oh, absolutely was.
Yeah.
Absolutely was. There's been a pattern now with 2 of these 3 rounds that DarkZero has won. And I mean, I do think it also somewhat I do think it also somewhat extends to Space Station 2, but in a different way. Rampy died for nothing now 2 rounds in a row. Or two successful rounds for DarkZero in a row. There was obviously a gap of 2 rounds between those. Rampy on Vigil didn't really do much. He dies early. Not able to do his job, not able to put his gadget to good use, didn't waste as much time as he wanted. What ends up happening with when he's on Buck last round? Same thing. Not really able to put his gadget to good use. Didn't know how to apply it to Penthouse Theater. Dies too early to be able to put any kind of vertical pressure from that main lobby onto the defenders that were sitting in the back of Theater. Both times, it's not just that you lost the opening pick. That has quite clearly been very crucial. But it's also that you lose a very good player in Rampy who is perfectly capable of dominating a game. What a play by Hyper that was. Once again, that bait and switch goes on to Fultz as they've been hunting down Mint, and I have to stop myself just for a second here. But not only do you lose the opening pick, but you lose somebody who's a great player and has very valuable utility. With that said, DZ does technically get the very first pick, but it's swiftly answered back. Call it a wash as both teams lose 1 body in the same second.
So, no real advantage here gained, but SSG did get the control they wanted. They were bidding for top white. That's going to allow them to do an Aqua take later in the round. They can set up flank watch now for the staircase. With the Dokkaebi and the Lion both still in play, they have the ability to strangle these defenders and prevent them from making moves without being read. So, Space Station's in a good spot. They've got the utility they want, but so is DarkZero. They still have 3 gas canisters, and their smoke is playing by the bar. Now, he can gas through the wall to deny the default plan, which will force the attack to rotate wide on Billiards if they want to go for a plant. This might mean that SSG will change their attack, or they'll have to lean on the smokes that Dokkaebi has. Now, that's a dangerous proposition because the smokes can be pretty good for both teams when placed incorrectly, and drastically bad actually for the attack if used even worse. You can put those smokes in places that actually give advantage to the defense, and that's often overlooked.
God, I love how much DZ are being rats right now. Just looking at the drone holes, playing shrewd angles. It's great. So now with that, SSG have to break into the bomb site. Time is not on their side, and yet they are finding the kills they need to put it back to a 3v3. But then they'll just start to trail in numbers. Tough going for the attackers as they are left downstairs desperately, and Space Station have no hope in hell of winning this as the clock hits 0. A stalwart defense from DarkZero as SSG meets their maker. And just like that, it's a defender's ball here on Coastline. 2 in a row for DarkZero. They are 1 round away from tying this up.
Okay, so there's a lot to talk about there, but the main thing I want to bring into the forefront here is the deliberation on SSG, like trepidation maybe? I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what SSG was waiting for there. Maybe it was downstairs. Like, my best guess is that SSG was waiting for their buck to get below before executing. And that's why they were so unbelievably slow to get their execute underway. When I saw the smoke die to the nade, I'm like, oh yeah, that's fantastic. But that may be 20 seconds sooner, please. That was the first thought that went through my head, was like, yeah, okay, great, but there's only like 15 seconds left for the attack to actually get the execute done. And at that point, yeah, SSG managed to get their setup down pat. They had somebody on hookah balcony. Rampy was going downstairs to buck from below. The execute from Aqua looked like it was ready to set up. But the timing was so off because everyone had to rush because there was no time left. And there was, I think, let's say 30, 40 seconds where SSG was just running around in circles on the east side of the building. And again, I don't know what exactly they were waiting for. I'm going to guess it was Rampy to get below. But whatever it was, should have been executed a little bit faster. That, to me, screams miscommunication on SSG's side. And I really hope that they get that sorted out in the coming rounds.
Who'd have thought we'd be in this position right now where the defenders are just excelling on Coastline as much as they have? We only have 3 attacking round victories so far through the 9 rounds of active play.
Good point.
That's wild to think. One thing I do want to note, by the way, is that over the last 3 matches that we've seen between these teams, though Coastline hasn't been played, no map has gone to overtime. The score line between these teams have been 7-3, 7-5, 7-5, 7-4, 7-3, 7-3, 7-5.
Oh boy.
So they usually go pretty close to the distance. We've hit round 10 right now, which is not the average. The average amount of rounds played between these teams is just a tiny bit. It's either 11 or just a little bit above 11. So I expect all 3 of these maps, if we need them all, or maybe even 2, to go quite a ways. I think it is fascinating that with how much these 2 teams have played each other since July, that was the very first match they played, middle of July, we haven't needed any OT. It's been pretty decisive map victories. So if DZ wins this round, we start to tilt towards overtime being infinitely more likely than it was prior. This is the first kitchen defense for DarkZero, and they are prepped and ready for the play upstairs. You saw Nitro Cell in hand. I don't know if Skies could have been noticed in his spot right there, but Thinking Nate has been down by that explosive tossed up. He'll need to be retrieved at some point as DZ look for rotates of their own. They don't like their positioning down below, and a Nitro Cell from Hot and Cold is ready for SSG.
He's waiting for the buck to start opening from above, and he'll use his C4. Now, you see that he's still got it in the pocket. I think it was a set of Habana X-Gyros used on the drop there. Fultz will get Skies. So there's the early kill. And if that early kill resulting in round win wins out here, then this might be match point. The C4 could change the round outcome, though. If Hot and Cold times it perfectly, he's going to use his hole to try and time it. And there it is. It's a kill through the SMG. No C4 necessary. DZ answer back to that early frag, and Rampy is a great operator to get out of play, considering the top floor control is big for SSG. Now, this is huge, too. Look at the time. Hot and Cold will eat some damage, but there's not very much time for SSG to actually get the execute. Bosco, C4 from below, he shrugs it off. He's still in play, and he's got enough HP to win a gunfight. Hotten's playing very aggro in service entrance. This could work out for him, but as Fultz entries, he'll take him down. He goes actually back out of the site, but nice trade from Hyper regardless. Canadian planting by service entrance. Eclipse will get the main lobby control, eliminated, but nobody knows there's a plant going down. He should have peeked. Mint will get it in the end, though. And Eclipse, Hyper, Mint, DarkZero winning the round. Beautiful job to them. We go to an even round count.
Goodness, what a comeback from DarkZero that is. Played off of Fultz's timing on that pantry rotate. He was over by the, what was it, the service shelves, pantry shelves, whatever teams call them. And he pushes into the main lobby. Well, he pushes into the main lobby. He gets gunned down. I don't think people realize, but Mint was out of ammunition in the T5. He only had the pistol available to him. And, well, he makes it work. The plant goes down in the doorway. Canadian isn't able to scramble out of there quickly enough. Eclipse being in the main lobby. Obviously, things worked out very well in favor of DZ. And they ended up getting that retake because of the fact that they had 2 people playing off the bomb site. They had one playing down by Blue Bar. They had one playing inside of the main lobby. And when the call was made and Hot and Cold dies inside of service, everybody from DarkZero collapsed. And it's like all of them at the same time were called on in. And SSG got caught in the middle of the objective play that was going on, thinking Nate only had a tiny bit of HP because he'd been brought back to life from the Nitro Cell that had been tossed out earlier. DZ played that whole round immaculately. Bosco was the victim of circumstance up above. He missed out on a very easy kill. He was then chasing frags, couldn't do his job up top. It was ultimately a very messy conclusion for Space Station, but they didn't have a lot of time left to do much with. They had to get in, they had to get the objective down. It was very clear that they were not fully prepared to commit to the plant the way they wanted to. And DZ were set up nicely for it inside a main lobby, inside a kitchen, and then the hallway leading from both of the double bars. It proved to be too much for Space Station.
So we've seen both teams use their tactical timeouts now. That was Space Station's just now. DarkZero's was earlier in the map. You get 1 per map. So there you go. With that done, we'll resume our regular gameplay. Huge comeback from DarkZero. And, you know, you talked about it earlier. The defensive side more favored in this matchup than usual. This has been brought up a few times before, but sometimes the conventional side favorite, whether it be attack or defense on any map, can be flipped on its head depending on how teams match up against each other. And in this case, it seems to be that is what's happening. So, SSG, in a bid to change all that, will bring a Glaz of all things. They certainly are trying new things on Coastline. We saw the Dokkaebi, the Lion, just the Lion. Neither of those worked terribly well. So now they're going to do away with both and bring the Glaz with an extra set of smokes on Yana. So yeah, this is a very different attacker lineup. And who knows, maybe it'll work out great on Double Bar. I don't know exactly where they're going to want to use the Glaz setup. Maybe by Mud? But wherever they end up using it, his performance there will be, I think, of note. Also of note, I believe we do have... the buffed Glaz is live, so that came out with the last update, I want to say. So he basically, like, the little movement detectors on the side of his scope kind of don't matter anymore. You can move a lot. I mean, they do matter, but they don't at the same time. It's almost as if they matter almost not. Yeah, they don't really. Mint's going for an aggro play, and he'll get nothing for it. Thinking Nade shuts him down with a nice, well-timed headshot.
That last round, by the way, was the very first time that the attackers, or the team that got the very first pick, have not gone on to win the round. And also, the very first time that we've seen an objective actually get used. This action is going to come quickly in quite a hurry. As 20 seconds, we've now seen 3 deaths for these teams. 2 from DarkZero, 1 from Space Station. Obviously, favoring SSG for now, though Bosco is a clutch performer. I think overall the rest of SSG are poised to be able to fill the void that came in from the Sledge, though Sledge is crucial here. This is the first time we've seen Glaz in quite a while. He got buffed as well, so there might be an opportunity for him in this meta. And on a map like Coastline, it's been talked about before that depending on the way that teams will set up, prior to there being so many bulletproof gadgets put into this game, Glaz was a substitute for a hard breacher for quite a lot of teams, most notably that old Penta/G2 core.
Yeah, because why would you need to open up more angles when you control the bottlenecks on attack? It's not an easy thing to do, and Glaz is one of the few operators that can do it. The reason I find it particularly interesting here is because there's not an abundance of bottlenecks on Coastline, or there are, but I don't know, it's really easy to work around them. And that's one of the things that makes this such a dynamic map. In the short term, though, we've only got about 40 seconds left. Rampy needs to figure out where he's going to be using this piece of utility. That is paramount. He hasn't given himself away just yet, as far as I know, and Smoke's going in. He'll be playing by the pink bar window. The smokes are not useful to him, though. A weird vault and curious positioning. DZ picks up 2 kills. Thinking and Canadian now, the last 2 attackers, their stuns are going in. But what are they really going to be able to get out of this situation? Probably nothing, as the Goyo shield is preventing them from pushing in thanks to that fire. Nice shot there for Canadian, eliminating Eclipse on a long angle. The attackers get the control they want, but they need to also plant. And in the dying seconds, it doesn't seem likely, but it's a 1v1. Skies versus Canadian. It's going to be close here, and Skies will win it on time. This is the 3rd or 4th time we've seen a situation like that in this match. But DarkZero take the lead and push us now, I think, on a match point.
And it's match point for DarkZero. DarkZero has not had the lead since round number 1. They reclaim it in round 11, so I guess that's just 2 1s put together if you really think about it. I mean, it makes lots of sense, Michael.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, it's science at that point.
1 + 1 = 6.
1 + 1 is 11. That is how it works that is how it works in the lead here. It comes on the double bars, and it comes in that same angle, that 90-degree angle, that nook, whatever you want to call it. No, not the operator. The nook, the cranny, whatever you want to call it, where Bosco was able to clutch as well. It's very challenging for you as an attacker to be able to do much because you just play ring around the rosy with a second left. Good effort from Canadian, but it falls short. And man, Skies cannot get enough credit for that round. The way that he was able to play off the Goyo shield towards Mudroom. The Nitro cell that went out didn't connect anything, but was at least enough to slow down the attackers. The play with the Vector behind the bar, he was keeping everything in for his team, and he was set up in a great spot for it. It's not even just Skies that could play off of that. I would hazard a guess that half of the lobby could have been able to do what Skies did from that position. But still, You as a team have to feel comfortable when somebody of the caliber of Skies is in that spot. And he's had a very quiet game so far. We are back to peak major performance from Hot and Cold. He always seems to thrive when it comes to big games. And I would argue that Hot and Cold has been the best player in the lobby. Highly impactful kills, oftentimes on operators that aren't given the spotlight. He's holding up his end of the bargain for DarkZero. They will go to Hookah for their very final defense here in regulation. If overtime is required, DZ will defend twice. And with the way these rounds have been shaping up on Coastline, we thought that they knew something that we didn't. It turns out that the attackers are not in a favorable position on this map, especially in this matchup. So DZ defending twice on OT would be a huge benefit to them.
Or so it seems, based on what we've got thus far. The only negative I have to say about DZ on this comeback right now is it seems like Mint has probably not had the perfect match overall. I saw a few moments of shakiness from him earlier in this map. We're going to need to see him reset for map number 2 when we get to that. He is typically one of the more, not strong performers, but like he has a expected amount of, contribution to the overall scoreboard. And I think, part of why DZ maybe isn't winning this a little bit more definitively is that lack of contribution. So we'll see if he can change things for the next map. That would give, I think, DZ a landslide victory if they were able to swing that kind of a result. A little bit of an ADS clear there, mishap actually, as the stun is intended to clear the ADS to allow for the Ash Charge to destroy something, very likely an Evil Eye. But the first Ash Charge was caught. Now, this second Ash Charge is even more important. It has to land on this Evil Eye. A difficult shot, and it looks like it does land in a way. That's an EMP, actually, disabling the Evil Eye. I'm not sure if they managed to destroy it in the end.
And there goes another tossed out up top as SSG have changed things up. They don't like the Lion experiment. Thatcher will come in place. It is a little strange to see Thatcher get brought here on this map, but if there's going to be a bomb site where it happens, other than Penthouse Theater in the olden days, well, it's going to be here on Hookah. And Hibana's impact is going to be felt huge on the wall in pink above, which is where you see the Smoke of Skies playing off of. With 40 seconds remaining and only a single gas canister, he's going to have to be a little bit better with this timing. DZ will surrender the first pick as Rampy barges on in. The last smoke will go off, deal a tiny bit of damage, and there it is as Skies throws it out. It had been pre-placed. Skies won't be able to get away with it as SSG is claiming this kill feed before trading off Canadian, but they still have the last laugh onto their pick from Eclipse. Hyper will rely on the pings as DZ will need to storm back, but overtime is looking like a near certainty at this point because Hyper's position has been given away. DarkZero had the lead. They're letting it slip through their fingers, but unless there can be something that happens in the final seconds with Hyper stopping the plant, it's almost assuredly going to be an SSG victory. The job for Hyper will get much harder now as that diffuser goes down, and there's still plenty of red pings dotting the map. Hyper knows exactly where they are, but he's not even going to be able to find one. These teams have never needed overtime to settle a map before, but it's LAN, it's a major, this is what happens. We're going to see our first overtime between SSG and DZ since the US division started. And we're going to start with DZ on defense.
All right. So, solid attack there for SSG. The key to that round, I believe, was getting rid of the smoke who was playing in the bar and getting the player on single wall in Hookah. Now, if you don't know what single wall is, that's on that wall where there's always a single reinforcement in the middle. They make a rotation on the other side and usually some murder holes on the other. And then you use that to deny the push in through billiards. There was no one on that position for DarkZero. Now, that might have been a pick early in the round. It might have just been DarkZero rotating incorrectly. Whatever it was, more likely the pick. SSG, because of that, were able to just wide swing on Hookah Bar. And, well, not, and then, from there, they were able to just take full control of the site itself in billiards. Easy plant, no real way for DarkZero to fight at that point, because if you lose control of billiards, the attack will use it to gun down the rest of the anchors in Vase or in Hookah. So, well executed from Space Station, but now they have to execute onto Kitchen to take this map overall. It's going to be the first to win 2 rounds in these last 3 who will take map number 1.
I'm fascinated to see the way that this one's going to play out. I mean, obviously, if you were watching the major for exciting action, there will be no safe results. No foregone conclusions. They're going to have to fight tooth and nail. It does bode well for DarkZero that they're able to keep coastlines so close. This is a map that they don't play all that often. SSG are very comfortable on this map. They picked it for a reason. And SSG have shown some struggles. This is not the same SSG team that is being touted by ourselves and the analysts as being the world champions. I mean, they still do hold that title. That's indisputable. But they're not playing like world champions. And SSG fought Disrupt in a squeaker to get in here for the major. Now, DZ knows a thing or two about that as well, as they were in the same position for the major in the summer. DZ ended up winning on the very final round of the very final map over the Sonics to make it in. And then guess what? DZ went on to win the whole thing. Well, SSG doesn't look like the same confident team at the moment that DZ did in the previous major. But the one thing for SSG is that they've got off to a good start. In this first overtime round, Hyper has been punished for his play by Courtyard. He's bleeding out and somebody will need to come get him. Hot and Cold will pop the hatch and Hyper will drop. But there goes Eclipse as well. So you might be able to get Hyper back. But Eclipse is off the board as SSG have stormed the gates and will now align themselves in the double bars down below.
There's an incredibly light site presence right now for DZ as well, as Hot and Cold had to rotate to save his teammate. There was a window of opportunity for SSG to hit the site and do some damage, but they didn't seize upon it. So as DZ is allowed to reset, their chances begin to rise. Hyper still on low HP though, and still a man advantage to extend that for SSG. Skies will lose his shield, which makes controlling the kitchen door exceedingly difficult. Will do his darndest, but it's unlikely to net any seriously, beneficial results. SSG does have a lot of soft destruction, and they do also have a minute, so there is a chance that they could rotate upstairs, though that is going to shave away a lot of their time. And as we've seen many examples of in this map, the clock is way too important to be risking on a bid for top floor control right now. So SSG might not go for that, especially considering Mint is still positioned here with a mirror window. The direct site take, though, I'm guessing might be met with success. We'll see how SSG chooses to handle this as we hit the last 35 seconds.
Rampy gets a couple pings, but one of them will be behind the mirror window, and Hyper, who wasn't finished off earlier, will have his revenge. He'll stop that black mirror from being opened up as his impact grenade manages to take out the X-Kairos pellets that are in front of it. This is really do or die for SSG at this point. They're going to run up against a wall and really need to rely on gun skills. The better setup right now is in the hands of the defender. DZ gets flushed out of their position, and SSG can taste blood, so they will start to clamp down on this bomb site. And right now, they are tearing through everything that DZ has. But once again, time will not necessarily be on their side. Mint takes one down into a 1v1. Canadian will have a repeat. He gets spotted, and Mint with the clutch. He does it again, the same spot. And he has a little bit of fun as he will toy with his food and manage to get the diffuser. A massive triple kill from Mint. And DZ will go on to match point again.
That's exactly what we needed to see from Mint. I was talking about his performance earlier. Before that round, he had 3 kills, and he had 3 kills for a long time. He was struggling to put any score on the board. And right there, he makes probably the single most impactful play of the entire match. That could win the map alone for his team. So major props to Mint showing up when it really matters. Impact kills, impact plays. SSG now on the back foot where they seem to be in control of that round. They lost it. And now they have to win 2 in a row, starting with their one and only defense here in this round on OT.
Absolutely remarkable recovery from DarkZero, and it once again is based off of the play off the bomb site. You noted that when there was about a minute left that the presence for DZ on kitchen was very weak. As noted, it was because the Mira had to move off to pick up Hyper, but then Hyper went right back to business as usual, playing as Vigil inside of the main lobby, and he just commanded that position. Not only getting a pick on the main doorway, or as we like to call it, the Lamborghini doorway, but also using the impact in order to buy greater time for Hot and Cold in the position in kitchen. That saved about 20 seconds or so for DZ. They lose that mirror window earlier, and then the pressure from SSG is too much for whoever's playing in that spot. It necessitates a total fall off of the back bomb site and allows SSG to waltz in and get the diffuser planted much easier and much quicker. That alone was the difference maker, because by the time that DZ engaged in their gunfights, Mint in particular, who has very much woken up in this latter portion of the map, it allowed DZ to just simply wear down the time. SSG's time management was pretty respectable, to be completely honest with you. But for whatever particular reason, DZ played that really well. Mint was able to get good reads, and here we are in the final round.
So apparently the game is frozen for our production, but I can still see it. So
as can I.
So we're going to keep casting it for what we've got, but we can't show it to you because the feed direct through. Now we can. Yay. All right, we're back. I was going to say the feed to our production wasn't working, but now it appears to have, started working. Thank you, production. Excellent job. That was fast. We've got the standard setup here. So no beats skipped here. In case you're wondering what happened, there was actually nothing that actually influenced the gameplay. DZ have been setting up for a direct take onto the site, and they've been trying to look for long angles to get picks. They have managed to do some serious damage to Bosco, but no picks have happened just yet. And as we near the half round point, when you set up for these angles and expect to get picks but don't get any, you can lose rounds on attack this way. DarkZero need to be very careful.
These teams favoring the hookah bomb site quite a lot, as is commonplace. Kitchen also being in healthy rotation. And, well, the way that DZ wants to take this right now is working out quite well. It's a missed opportunity for Eclipse to have netted a second kill for DZ, but they do get the opening pick on the Canadian. He's playing Fultz's role on the Maestro. This is going to leave the man of the hour, Fultz, playing on this Sunrise bar, and he gets flushed out. DZ are lethal on this entry, and they are taking nothing for granted. SSG have squandered an opportunity to be able to cut this one back and now find themselves knocked off guard. But a great shot from Rampy as he'll drop and have a highway back into the bomb site. As Malusi, that 3-speed, he'll be put to good use. A logic bomb goes out with 40 seconds remaining, and the gap has narrowed. Thinking Nade will rely on the cover from Bosco as he throws out 2 smokes to try and slow anything down from Cool Vibes, but an upside down rappel from Hot and Cold is better than Bosco. There goes Rampy, and Space Station are about to fall out of this one. DarkZero shut it down and take map number 1 in a really remarkable series of rounds here in overtime. They're going to be really happy with taking SSG's map, and sets them up with win conditions on Cafe, their map, to seal this matchup.
Absolutely massive dub there for DarkZero, and one that I think a lot of us didn't see coming. The early stages of that first map did look like they favored SSG, and we were talking about how the attack tends to be the favored side. In the end, though, defense favored, and, well, for some reason we didn't see a lot of answer back from SSG. They had some really shaky rounds where the attack set up poorly or the defense set up in odd ways. No matter what, DarkZero, a little bit more perseverance.
Just what we saw to DarkZero from the major onward is they had a little bit of stumbles in stage 2, but you know what? DZ are looking like a fine machine, and Hyper in particular hasn't missed a beat. He played exceptionally well. Hot and Cold to me was still the MVP, but I'm going to give the nod in that second half to Mint. I'm excited to see what happens on Cafe. Right now, SSG has a better record against DZ on it, despite it being DZ's map. Wonder what's going to happen there. But before that, a break, and then our analysts to go through map number 1. Stick around, don't go anywhere.
not for me. Perfect.
Oh my god.
Oh, you did not do that to Sam.
Jared? Wait. Oh my god, he's so good. They're a number right now.
It's an ace!
Ace, let's go, baby! Let's go!
Welcome back in. Great casting by Kicks and Intero, but there's one thing I'm gonna have to say because I believe every single person watching this match walked away or typed somewhere out there saying SSG is just gonna steamroll DarkZero. But the comeback happened and we had one hell of a first map. So analysts, gentlemen, Jacob, Jesse, break down what happened to me.
I think that's the kind of thing you just have to temper expectations on. You see how a map goes in Siege, and then it can easily swing the other way in a perfect 180 before you even realize what's happening. And I was questioning, like the rest of us were behind the desk, are we calling this a comeback or not? And after a 4-2 half, DarkZero doing that to SSG, that's a pretty darn good sign that Cafe could swing the same way.
Yeah, the lesson here is never count out DarkZero, of course, no matter what happens. We've got two of the best teams in the world playing on LAN. I mean, you can never call the game until it's over. This is a fantastic clutch-up play. We saw Mint in overtime start to pop off as well. Really, just some impressive gameplay for DarkZero to bring this one back. The mental fortitude that it takes and that grit and determination to keep your head on. This is the clutch from Mint, yeah. That really, you know, isn't easy, and not a lot of teams have that. So you got to give a ton of credit to DarkZero to be able to pull this one back, clutch out the win on Coastline.
That is just absolutely insane. We're getting the stats coming together right now, but Jacob, there's something weird that happened on Coastline, especially throughout the first 10 rounds. There has been attempts, but both of these teams, they weren't actually able, oh, sorry, here goes stat lines right here. Both of these teams, they weren't actually able to really capitalize on getting those plans off. We saw an example during the replays, I believe it was round 7 or 8, where Bosco picked up the diffuser and tried to get it down after Canadian failed, but it just turned out to be a massacre. What were things that you picked up, Jacob?
Well, that's just the way that Coastline swings. DarkZero didn't have much of a focus on trying to go for objective play, and their stats clearly show they were going for frags on their attacking half. That's something that we always expect from Coastline anyway, but it definitely made itself more prevalent as we continued. The only problem is, on their attacks, it was a 4-2 half. DarkZero only won 2 rounds when they were going fully for eliminations as opposed to getting the diffuser down. So it's a different style of play. It's something that Coastline usually always has in its back pocket anyway, but I think the stats really do help tell the story about how they were trying to play Coast.
Yeah, and looking at sorry, Jesse. Yes,
like I just want to say, based on these stats, I mean, take a look at this. Sky's going 7-9 while we have them up here. That's a bit of a shock to me, considering he was our player to watch. You know, he was the guy that we were expecting to pop off. He was their biggest player in their last match, and he had a great round. You know, in round number 11 when they were on that bar defense and he was hiding behind the pillar. He played well sometimes, but I was a little bit disappointed to see him not popping off, particularly early on in that map. But he definitely did bring it back a bit. So not a terrible stat line, but it's something I think worth mentioning.
And you were talking about how teams are playing first half, second half, and we all saw the opening kills from Spacestation Gaming. They seem to do pretty well when it came to that. But something else caught your eye with Space Station compared to the second half when we talk about their first.
Yeah, so this was a really slow map, and I think that's to be expected. When you see Space Station versus DarkZero on the ticket, you don't think, oh yeah, this will be over quick. But really, this was a game where we saw roamers like to get aggressive, particularly Faults. You know, with him recently moving over to this roam position, it's been interesting to watch how he plays it compared to how Canadian used to play on this role. And he's been really getting aggressive. He was swinging doorways, swinging windows, running around the map. And that really did slow down the way that DarkZero had to push. But when it flipped the script and when Space Station went over to attack, we just didn't see that same pace. We didn't see the same ability to swing things. And I think here on LAN, we've got Space Station, you've got great gunners like Faults who can really pop off in a LAN environment. You know, they clearly had that confidence in the first half. It went away a little bit, and when that momentum started to slip, they had a bit of trouble bringing it back. But I did, at least in that first half, like to see that initiative and that aggressive roaming style come out from Faults. I hope we see that again going into map 2.
All right, now before we get into the second map, because the players are, giving them the small break, but Jacob, talk to me. Mint, he wasn't having the best time. I believe his stat line, he was like, 3 and 8. He was struggling, but he came back, got the nice clutch, the 2K to end out the round. We saw the teabag happen. Heading into map 2, what are your thoughts about DarkZero's slow start and them keeping that consistency from the beginning?
Part of it was because they were flipping Coastline script a little bit. If it's an attacker favorite map, we obviously expect it to swing that way. But even on a defensive side for Coastline, DarkZero were able to capitalize wholeheartedly and bring the comeback back in full swing. Cafe has begun to shift a little bit. It's not so much the defender fortress that we've known it for in previous seasons, even though it still probably might swing that way a little bit. It's definitely not just a place where you can excel or expect to win all of your rounds if you're playing defense first. Slow starts are common, especially when we're, it's been a while for DarkZero. They still haven't played any game up until now that wasn't an NAL game for a good month. It's been several weeks, but they came out and won on their very first map after having that kind of extended break. And even though Mint wasn't up to par at the beginning of the match, he got there in the end with that clutch play, and even Hyper was performing the way that we had seen him perform previously. So I don't really know if there's all that much rust for DarkZero to shake off right now.
All right, so we did have a community poll, and it was in swap of placement for the last major, who will continue to heat up going into our first match today. It was between Hyper with DarkZero and Rampy with Space Station Gaming. And Jesse, who do you think won that poll?
I'd probably end up going with Rampy, just given the whole situation, but I'm interested to see what the community was thinking.
Well, actually, it's going to be coming up soon. It was extremely close. Hyper had 47%, and it was Rampy that won. So
close.
Yeah, you're definitely close. But final thoughts before we head into Cafe. Jesse, we heard what Jacob said about that map. What are you expecting right now? Is it going to be a 2-0?
Potentially. I think DarkZero giving themselves a lot of breathing room, winning on Coastline. This did not look like a good map pool an hour ago. Now that DZ have won the first map, it looks a lot better for them. I'd say they would be the favorites coming into map number 2. They did pick it. This is a map that, again, rotates back and forth. These teams play it a lot. It is technically DarkZero's turn to win it. Space Station won it first, then DarkZero, then Space Station. It's time for DZ to win it again. We'll see if that holds true, though.
Well, let's see if the seesaw battle continues on. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for map number 2. Can DarkZero pull ahead and knock Space Station down into the losers bracket? We'll find out. Kixon and Taro, take it away.
Thank you so very much, Veli, and thank you very much both Jesse and Jacob, doing a bang-up job as usual. And I like that they contextualize Cafe, because they've set the stage now for what is going to be, I assume, a long and grueling second map. Now, I mean, we can put our hands up and say that we probably didn't expect Coastline to go 14 rounds, and we probably didn't expect Coastline to go to DarkZero at all, but this is the reality that we're in at the moment. For Space Station, you were coming into Cafe with a better record than DarkZero. On this map, sure, but DZ obviously looked very motivated, and I don't know if this record and this history around SSG will honestly be enough with that performance that DZ just gave on Coastline.
I don't know either, Parker. I expect this one to be a fairly close contest, though. Cafe is, of course, now, for SSG, their last chance to keep themselves in this series, now that they're down one map. DarkZero, on the other hand, okay, stats be darned going into this, if I'm being honest. I think the DarkZero is they're a pretty good Cafe team, and, as much as their record here isn't perfect, neither is Space Station. So, DarkZero's is definitely way better. The last 5 times they played this map, they've got an 80% win rate right now. It's not flawless, but it's good. The only thing that I think is going to really shift things, maybe shake things up here, is the amount of footage that's available to both teams, of course, on this map, given it's played by both of them. There's going to be a lot of counter-stratting going on, and of course, you talked about this earlier. That's what we come to expect at majors. The ban phase done. It's pretty standard for Cafe minus the Ying. Nomad being banned is going to facilitate a mini bakery push. Wamai being banned is going to make holding Pixel much more difficult. Valkyrie being banned is just par for the course on Cafe. This is one of her better maps. So nothing shocking going on other than the Ying ban in lieu of a Thatcher ban.
DZ will bring out the Lion, but I wonder if this is going to be 6th pick bait here for DarkZero. Doesn't seem to be the case right now. Skies instead will switch off to Dokkaebi. If there's a team that loves its annoying operators, well, it's DarkZero. Jackal, Lion, and Dokkaebi will put an immense amount of pressure on the roamers and even on the anchors playing on site, depending on the application that DZ wants to use those operators for. They're going to confront a reading and dining defense to start things off for Space Station. There have been some changes, as were noted by the analysts, in regards to the way the cafe is played. The top floor bomb site has fallen out of favor, yet teams will still aggressively defend up top. One of the strategies involve holding Pixel, which is where the Goyo shield was just placed by the bench inside of Piano. Sometimes you'll put a second shield up in the bathroom where Canadian is now reinforcing, and given that he's deliberately left one of those walls soft, my assumption is they're going to try to shoot out some of that as well, and another deployable shield will go. That way the defenders can fall back, waste time, waste utility, waste gadgets on that Goyo shield that's placed by bench, and then retreat to the bathroom if need be. That might not be the play here, it really depends, but it does seem to be the case as Bosco is now establishing it as well. 3 deployable shields upstairs, with Fultz also anchoring it down with a mirror window. This is going to be at face value, a very strong defensive setup from SSG upstairs, as we've seen from many teams that have set this similar defense in motion. But DZ have some tools to take care of it, and you can look at the Dokkaebi, the Jackal, and the Lion as 3 prongs that will be working for the attack.
You know, this is the standard triangle setup, or the pizza slice, or whatever you want to call it. You hold control of Pixel to Heaven to top white stairs. You get your own little, corner of the top floor. SSG are doing this without a Wamai, which is why, in all likelihood, they're bringing the Mira. That was a foolhardy extension there from Fultz. He was trying to make holes for potential C4 from below later in the round, and because he was doing it so late in the round, he loses his life when he really just didn't need to. Something interesting to note about the lineups here is that we do have a Dokkaebi Lion. Now, I get it on Coastline. I haven't really seen this on Cafe in a long time, so this is a very different setup for DZ. I'm curious to see how it plays out for them.
Rough to lose Fultz so early on. I didn't see if both mirror windows got down. I only saw the one get placed. I don't know if you have any greater intel on that one. There's one, it did not get placed above. There's only one that looks like it's been placed. Did they call off placing the mirror window inside of the back bar? Because if so, that's...
Maybe.
That's quite damning. If that's the case and our eyes don't deceive us and there's only one mirror window down, that is troubling for Space Station. I understand the strategy behind leaving a pocket mirror, as they call it. But if DZ understand this and know that there's only one in place, things could get from bad to worse for SSG very quickly. With the final minute, Skies will now be on the hunt, and the Lion call goes off, but Thinking Nate is positioned behind that deployable shield, and, well, I understand the play from Skies there, but it might not have been the best move. The advantage that DarkZero had given themselves by the early pick on Nefultz is now evaporated, and if anything, might have even swung back in favor of SSG, as there's no Dokkaebi. Depending on what kit she had, that could be no smokes available other than Mint's single smoke. Easy still have a lot of tools to work with, though.
The key here is that there's only 30 seconds, and DarkZero need to hit the site sooner rather than later. They're going to be using the nade there from the Maverick to try and clear out the castle barricade. Hyper is going to try and pinch from Dining. Rampy will take out Houghton, who is trying to push the reading door solo. Easy position for Canadian to hold because he's got no vertical pressure from above. There's a nice drop. Speaking of vertical pressure, Rampy will get 1 kill, not the second with his pistol. He'll lose it out to Hyper, who switches to his own pistol, who has to get 3 kills in seconds, but he won't be able to do it. Bosco shuts him down, and SSG will take round number 1.
So even though they lost Fultz early on, even though the Mira wasn't in play, things still worked out quite well for Space Station. And like I said, that defense upstairs is really formidable. It's especially formidable if you don't have the explosives to deal with it. Now, if you bring a Jackal, a Dokkaebi, and a Lion in a meta that relies on explosives, what happens? Well, you don't have a lot of explosives. And that becomes a major problem. You've got Hyper, who's going to have 2. You've got 2 grenades from Maverick. Everything else that's long range won't be taken care of. That's why teams are bringing Sledge, because they've got those grenades available. That's why teams are bringing Ash. I don't know if DarkZero is going to be able to deal with the setup from SSG unless they manage to sort through all of those gadgets that are being brought by SSG designed to soak up and slow down the attack. And as we saw from that first round, and it's only one round, so things can obviously change. I mean, hell, DZ won round number 1 on Coastline as strongly as they did, and then it ended up coming down to 14 rounds. It was not definitive. But with that very first round, DarkZero struggled already with the amount of shields that were brought and the amount of destruction that was required. Now SSG is going to be bringing Maestro, needs explosives or possibly a blowtorch to deal with them. A deployable shield from Bosco. Canadian is going to have access to the Malusi Banshees, and there's ADSs on the board, same as before. Once again, this might be a sizable issue. They can burn through the ADSs with Dokkaebi. She's got 3 flashes, and that's actually pretty good for her because she can burn through it and take the place of Ashe in that regard. Eclipse is also going to be bringing flashes. That's going to mean the 2 smokes from Mint and the 2 grenades from Hot and Cold will be prized possessions for DarkZero, and it will require DZ to do a lot of arithmetic before they can even begin to push into this kitchen defense.
See, that's the problem, though. There's literally not enough Explo on the board for the attack to clear out all the defensive utility. But an even greater issue is losing players early like that. SSG will lose Canadian, who is in VIP. Long angle play there for Skies, and already a great start for DZ. But we saw this in the last round, and SSG managed to rally from the same position, though on a different site. Can't expect the win to be in just yet for DarkZero. Especially given the fact that the utility that's been placed by the defense is still in need of destruction, and there's still just not enough Explo on attack to you get all of it. You can of course destroy these things in other ways. You know, Maverick Blowtorch can do it, but that's a rare occurrence where you're going to actually be maving Evil Eyes or shields. Now, it seems like DarkZero wants to clear above, and that is apparently their focus right now. That's why they brought the breaches on Hyper. He's going to be able to do some serious work on the top floor, repositioning the anchors, whether they like it or not. And that's probably going to give him a little bit of a control advantage. I'm curious what's going on over by Red Hall. We saw some Maverick torching over there, I wanted to say. Maybe they were looking for like a C4 or something. I honestly not sure. I think they're trying to... Oh, they're trying to get a very particular angle. Okay, yeah, they're trying to cut off the double door from above. That was a healthy time commitment. The reason those walls are reinforced is because of the vertical play, and because that wall on the red wall is also opened up for a rotate. The defense was hoping to keep that rotate and the double door still in their, advantage, but they've lost that now.
Still 1 EOD remaining on the Lion for Eclipse as we now move into the action phase of the round with only 40 seconds left on the clock. And you can see DZ still doing their due diligence. They'd gotten an early pick on the Canadian, but Fultz is able to start this off with a pick onto Hyper. Explosives down from the Zofia. There go the concussions as well. And one of those toxic canisters from SSG will greet DarkZero. A rat angle played by Rampy as there goes a logic bomb, but a little bit too late. It costs Eclipse his life. The Maverick bursts into the bomb site, but Fultz just mows him down. It's SSG playing defense on defense, playing all the way back. Skies might as well be on an entirely different map, as with 10 seconds left, he won't be able to influence much of this round. That leaves Mint in a very strong position. He's hitting his shots, but more importantly, he can't do anything to deal with the clock. Skies going for the defuse, but he gets spotted, and he falls off wisely. Saves the KD, but ultimately costs his team the round. He was a dead man no matter what, as he was in the midst of the smoke, with 3 members of SSG remaining.
So once again, in spite of the early pick that SSG handed to DarkZero, SSG will win it. Most of that I would attribute to the poor time management on the side of DZ, and the lack of soft destruction for, again, that we've been pointing this out a lot, but it really is important. When you're doing a vertical take and you don't have a buck or a sledge and you're trying to open up from above and you've got just breach charges to make that happen, I think that's just not enough, to be blunt. We probably could have seen a much more one-sided push into the site from DarkZero if they had an extra piece of soft destruction, but they didn't. Also, the Maverick spent a lot, and I mean a lot of time over by Red Hall just trying to set up control over the double door and the Red Hall rotate. And despite that, They didn't clear out coat check. They didn't clear out the main lobby. And the attack couldn't clear out those positions because they didn't have the time to do that. So I like the idea there for DarkZero. It's just way too slow. That's it. Just too slow.
10 seconds left.
I did like this strike from DZ. I thought they tackled the problems that Space Station brought quite well. It's very apparent to me through these 2 rounds, though, that DZ do not have the right tools for the job. I'm glad that they've made a change here for this 3rd round. I understand that you bring the Dokkaebi in part for the logic bombs, but also because you can burn out the ADS with those 3 flashbangs. And it's crazy that flashbangs are so important at the moment. But I like that there's more destruction being brought at this point. I think it's going to suit this bomb site in particular much better. This is the mining bomb site that we see. Obviously, if DZ can manage to take control of Piano above, then the rest of the work is going to be just a little bit easier. SSG are going to make them fight for it tooth and nail, as you can see that SSG are stacked up on the east side of the map. That's over on Cocktail on the 3rd floor. It's unlikely that unless things go real south for SSG that we see a Cocktail defense. Just from the way that this bomb site tends to get played, we can see one, but it is unlikely. There goes the first E1D, and well, there's still 2 minutes remaining in this round, and Hot and Cold is in the thick of it. He's got the diffuser in hand. He'll get spam marked, and Bosco will go fishing for one. But he takes a bit of damage. Hot and Cold goes down. Nitro Cell from Bosco. The mail is delivered, but Hot and Cold doesn't receive it the way that they want it to. DZ took a chance on this early bit of action, and so far it is not working out in their favor as they are 0 for 2 on these opening picks. Make that 0 for 4. Hyper is the only thing that will stop SSG from being able to get a flawless round. If he goes down, that's it. SSG, in turn, ends up dominating, and that would be a complete cycle. Oh, with 90 seconds remaining, all that's left is the crying at this point. It's extremely unlikely that Hyper is going to be able to make any significant noise. He could, in theory, just take a tactical timeout and give his team some time. Or possibly go hunting. No flawless round for Space Station as Rampy backs down brown stairs and Hyper finds him before moving over to white stairs. We can cast this by play, but we all know that the outcome is by no means certain. Especially now that nobody from SSG is going to move a muscle. They'll all hold tighting angles. And Hyper turns his back to the mirror. Fultz claims that kill. This round was over 45 seconds ago, but Hyper gave his team possibly some time to talk. SSG still wins the round, and it's a flawless rotation as they're up 3-0.
All right. So I like the play there from DarkZero. Like, they're trying for something. I appreciate that. It was, once again, poorly executed. In this case, they kind of played into SSG's setup. I can respect that DarkZero is playing Hail Marys. But, of course, when you do that, when you fail, it really is unfortunate and weird to look at. So a very contained, very minimal execution for DarkZero that just doesn't work out because SSG was well set up to handle it. That's pretty much the extent of the analysis you can do for a round like that. There was nothing else really to highlight. We'll go to the top floor here for SSG. They will be setting up with no Mira this time. Yes, Goyo. Still plenty of things that need soft destruction. And as you can see on the attacking side, finally, the Lion and Dokkaebi have proven themselves inadequate and have been replaced. There is a Capitao in play, which is very useful in circumventing the ADSs and getting control of places like Pixel, for example, or the bathroom where you see Thinking Nade placing a shield right now. You could just fire out where the defenders are playing behind those shields and then push in and take control. And you've got the soft destruction being buffed. You have the Ashe there again. Or, well, usually you see the Ashe. She wasn't being played. Now she's finally being brought out, along with the Zofia. So, no lack of soft destruction. You still have the extra nades from Hot and Cold's Maverick. Soft destruction, return to the meta. Normal stuff here from DZ, and it might prove to be their first round as a result. We'll wait and find out.
I like how last round I specifically said, oh, you're not going to see a Cocktail defense. And then what ends up happening is it's like somebody's in comms and they just say to themselves, hey, they said it. They said they're not going to go there. Go there. Make them look stupid. Have you seen my
Whoopsie.
social media content? I do a good enough job making myself look stupid on my own. You don't need to help me. So
Nah, I think you make some well-argued tweets, Parker. You
yeah,
just
but
get...
I pay you to say that. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, I expect my check by next week. Thank you.
I will try to get it to you. I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as the kids say, money's tight, Pepe hands. So
Look at this. Hyper's in by pillars, and he's lost half his HP. What did he do?
I probably got shot.
Yeah, you're probably right.
That's my guess.
Honestly, yeah. Looks like he was trying to push in through reading, and Bosco shot him through these holes, maybe?
It could be. I mean, it depends on if they've got intel on Hyper, right? You look at the lineup from Space Station, the only real intel they could be giving at the moment would be one of those Maestro cams, were it positioned to see down below. They're going to understand that DarkZero will take from the bottom, as most of these shots have been done specifically to greet the members of DarkZero when they decide to try for this vertical take. That's why Skies is down there right now. I like the swap to the Buck. It's a role that I find for Skies is far more comfortable. I didn't necessarily like the Dokkaebi pick for him. I know what DarkZero was trying to do, but I think they will have much better opportunity with Skies on this role.
I'd say also just not on this map. This is the wrong map for the Dokkaebi Lion. Right map for that nade from Hot and Cold. Down goes Thinking Nade. Oh, the irony. DZ's trying to push up white stairs. The stuns will work on Bosco, and Mint collects the kill. Beautiful push from DarkZero. They've got the control that they're bargaining for. Now, they got to be careful for the refrags. You can see that Rampy's in a great position to make some magic happen. The fire will stop him for repoing, but he will get Hot and Cold on Repel. That's a great elimination. Refrag, though, by Eclipse and Canadians down, meaning it's all on Fultz. He has to find 4 and stop the plant. It just doesn't seem likely. And as Canadian is finished off, it is really, truly a 1v4. Post plant now. He's fishing for picks. It's not likely to happen. This is all over except for the actual ceremony. So Fultz will see what he can get done here. It should be DarkZero's very first round. Oh, I'm not sure what Mint was doing, but an easy kill for Fultz, and he'll reposition to Whitehall. This is actually not that bad for him. If he can pick off one more, he's got 2 more 1v1s. It's not going to happen, though. The crossfire is there, and DarkZero will get their first round.
DZ had such a good clutch in terms of that round, and they had their clutches in the round, I should have said, as they had a good understanding of where the push from SSG would come regarding a retake of the bomb site. And the thing with Cafe is that if you don't have access to a nitro cell, you only have 2 stairways that you can possibly walk up. Red stairs is very easy for you to police if you're playing on the hatch above, or if there's an opening onto that wall into piano. Additionally, you can watch it from farther back, either in New Balk or inside a piano. Ditto with white stairs. You can play it from the bathroom. You can play it from the White Hall. You can play it from Lumber. You can play it from Cocktail. And then should either of those avenues fail for you, the retake from a defender will then need to greet somebody playing in Cocktail, somebody playing by bar, or somebody playing on the skylight above. So there was no real hope for Fultz there. Even though he got the pick on the Mint, I don't think that really was that significant for him, and he knew that. He was very well aware of it. At the time, there was also only about 20 to 25 seconds remaining. You were at the mercy of the clock with 3 more to find. I don't know why Space Station went to Cocktail. They could have very easily just tried this same rotation of reading, kitchen, and mining, which worked out so successfully for them. There is a reason why teams aren't going upstairs to Cocktail, and it's because right now it's got a pretty poor success rate for teams that play on Cafe. Yeah. It has fallen out of favor. There's very minimal buffer. Instead of being able to go from the top down, you need to retake from the bottom up, which is far more difficult for defenders. So I think Space Station could have possibly been a bit more conservative, stayed with their site rotation, and then work from there. They didn't choose to do that. They went to Cocktail. It was a gamble. It was a miserable round, and DZ really didn't break much of a sweat on it, if we're being completely honest. Now Space Station are going to do something a little bit more standard. They'll go back down to Kitchen. This worked out quite conveniently for them last time, though it was a 1v1. So still, DZ kept this bomb site close as they pressured from Freezer and the back. The question will be, will DZ repeat that, or will they go for more of a bakery style execute?
Right now, it looks like a top-down clear. They've got the full setup upstairs. Much more soft destruction. I talked about this the last time we were here. Not enough soft destruction when they were doing a top-down clear. If you're going to go light on soft destruction, take in through bakery. Do yourself a favor. But DarkZero this time, they've got the Buck. And they still have the breach charges on the Zofia. So they'll be able to open up plenty of the floor and repo those anchors pretty quickly. We'll see if that actually factors into the round, though, because we actually have had a few rounds on Kitchen before in past matches. Cafe, where you've got the soft destruction above, but it doesn't end up mattering because the anchors just push off of site and retake when you start going for your execution. The timing is paramount here. This is one of the best ways you can use these breaching charges, by the way. Putting them on walls in front of floors gets a lot of new angles. And it actually was buffed a long time ago, actually. Feels like it was just yesterday, but it was buffed a while ago, and yeah, you can get a lot more control with the breaches.
Like I said, I like this change for Skies. I think he's far more comfortable on Buck. You know, his stat line playing on this role, and I think it's going to help an awful lot. As well on this bomb site, you need an abundance of soft destruction. Bosco, that is a bad play. He moved up, did not realize how few bullets he had remaining or shots remaining in that shotgun, and then couldn't make a change quick enough. And he dies for nothing. Now, if you remember the kitchen defense for Space Station previously, round number 2, it was Bosco who was arguably one of the most important parts of that defense, not just because of his engagement with the SMG-11, but the threat that comes from those toxic canisters. You will not have that same stall potential any longer. So SSG needs to make some changes. They need to do it immediately. It works out for them right now because Skies just gets punished by Rampy, and Skies is gone, but it's a 4v4. So now DZ can take these gunfights and hold the back of the bomb site. They'll do just that. So these long angles being held from Space Station, currently unable to do too much. Rampy dies for his team, but does so valiantly, and the diffuser will need to be retrieved. That'll be Hyper to do it. He's at minimal HP. Eclipse comes down to help, but he's gone now as well. That means Mint will need to hold for his team, but he gets gunned down from Fultz, so they just need to wait for Hyper to pop back up. In a post plant for DarkZero, they hold control. Hyper will need to go for a reload at some point. He knows the two members of SSG, but he gets swung on by Thinking Nade. And there you have it. What a clutch from SSG. What a clutch from Thinking Nade and Fultz working together. They managed to get that diffuser down. SSG will decisively win the first half, regardless of what happens in round number 6.
So I talked about it actually in the middle of the round. Sometimes when you open up from above on that site, you could just push out of the site as the anchors and hold the plant from way off site. That's exactly what we saw happen there. Yeah, there was the casualty of Bosco early in the round, but SSG managed to safely and solidly hold on to the plant, deny it, all the way from Harry Potter and Bakery, just because they had the angles open. So that's good forethought from SSG. That's a good setup, solid positioning. DarkZero had the tools they needed to counter with the smokes from the Capital, but in the end, just wasn't enough. And DarkZero were unable to get their post plant that they so coveted. That rush from the Jaeger through the smoke, by the way, that sup moment really was, I think, the round-defining moment for Space Station. So well done to them, holding on to that, and they will go to Fireplace for their next defense. Mining seeming to be a more popular site as of late. I think we're on a tactical timeout, but I'm not sure. I haven't been informed. The timer is paused, so I would assume this is a tactical pause by one of these teams.
Well, it was at 13 seconds for a while, and I'm no timeologist, but I would imagine that it would continue to tick down, and it didn't, so
yeah,
I would gather that it was a timeout here. Probably DarkZero burning it. I would be surprised if Space Station would use it after winning 4-1 on the first half. It can still be 4-2. Space Station's still going to take that first half. They're going to look to drive the dagger deeper into the hearts of DarkZero and their fan base by winning this 6th round.
The guess is, of course, that the timeout was used specifically to get that 4-2 scoreline. Because we saw that in the first map, actually. DarkZero, 4-2 scoreline coming out of the first half. They needed that desperately. And, you know, coming back from a 4-2 is not impossible. In fact, it just happened. Coming back from a 5-1? Improbable. So, it can also happen.
This is going to be a small change for Space Station, as Canadian is on the pulse, an operator he's very comfortable with. Just as Skies being reunited with Buck has been a smart move. Canadian going on to pulse is usually good, as long as he doesn't get triple EMP'd in the basement of Consulate.
Yeah, the
No, not even a chuckle. That's fine.
what? Sorry,
I'll show myself
Parker.
out. It's okay.
I didn't hear you, Parker. You were talking to my right ear. So
Oh, what's wrong with your other ear?
my right ear, I can't hear out of it. Yeah.
I never knew that.
Oh, yeah. Well, there it is.
Yeah, you might have
sorry.
told me, but it fell on deaf ear.
Okay, well, that one was funny. All right. So we've got a setup on the top floor here. It's going to be a mirror window setup. This is the pizza slice. You try and hold on to Cocktail, hold on to Pixel. Got the mirror window to support. It will be, in fact, a mining defense, of course. So DZ has to figure out how they're going to be handling this. If they're going to hit the site directly, are they going to clear out the top floor? Last time we were here, DZ tried to clear out the top floor, failed, shifted to a direct take, and then failed on that too. Right now, it seems like a much more, direct commitment here for DarkZero upstairs.
Good intel that'll be called out, and the nitro cell, whether that came from the cardiac sensor or not, will manage to annihilate DarkZero's chances of any hard destruction outside of hot and cold. Eclipse using the Hibana could have been crucial on this bomb site in particular, given that it's mining and dining, but he won't be for this Earth at all. Back on that cardiac sensor, Canadian will go, so it was indeed quarterbacked by the calls of the IGL and team captain for Space Station. Strong capitalization from SSG. And also a pretty good target to get as well. Next, in terms of impact, likely would have been hot and cold, but he's going to need to play a little bit safer now. Need I remind you that the last time that DZ decided to take this bomb site was when they went for a rush strat over by Engine, and it did not work out at all. This is a little bit more of an orthodox take from them. Though Mint still swings onto Bosco, who, for the record, Bosco did not need to do that, but he took an opportunity when he saw it. It did not work out in his favor. So the backup for Space Station will be thinking, Nate. He'll be playing off of a panel with a couple bullet holes in it, and with a 1.5 scope, he can do some significant damage. It might as well be a pea shooter from that far away, but Mint now realizes that he's only a single point of damage gone. Hot and cold dropped. Is that 2 for thinking, Nate, as he collects from this avenue? That's an excellent position for him to be in, and it can propel his team to a 5-1 if the timing holds. The 2 remaining members of DarkZero will now need to coalesce around the bomb site. Whether they'll be able to do anything is anybody's guess. Skies won't be able to do too much, getting shot away. Down goes Hyper, and there you have it. Canadian claims 2 with a nitro cell, but thinking Nade had lined up the dominoes. All Canadian needed to do was knock them down. 5-1 first half for Space Station on Cafe is pretty good. This is DarkZero's map, and it'll put SSG in great position as the side swap happens.
All right, so that was a huge round from Thinking Aid. Massive angle using that bullet hole. And because of the bullet hole, there really was no way for their opponents to fight back. Nice hold there for SSG, and the first half really sound for SSG. It's going to be a hard hill to climb on the DarkZero side. That setup was pretty solid. I like that it was an uncommon Cafe setup in that it was not one hard line that the defense was trying to set up to defend, and if they lost that one thing, they would lose then the whole site. There were many different layers to the defense there for SSG, and I really respect that. I think it was a really clever way to set up their site.
I liked what I saw from it. We are once again on another timeout. The circumstances under which are presently unclear, so we'll update you as we see an answer arrive at our doorstep, so to speak. That first half, honestly, was dominated by a couple things. The first 3 rounds from DarkZero, I think, were a non-starter, and it took them a while to really kick themselves into gear because DZ was very committed to the Jackal, Lion, Dokkaebi combination. It very clearly did not bring the tools that were needed to tackle what obstacles and what hurdles Space Station threw up in front of DarkZero. Most importantly, the clear on the top floor with 3 operators that were designed to put pressure on the roamers and were designed to put pressure on anybody playing off site. Those are great operators for it. Problem is that you're not really roaming when you're defending upstairs. You're sitting behind shields. You're playing tight angles. You've got gadgets at your disposal. I don't know how well stylistically Dokkaebi, Jackal, and Lion work against a roam that isn't actually that mobile. And it took 3 rounds for DZ to figure that out and then go back to something that was a bit more practical, bringing more explosives, more destruction, and reuniting Skies with Sledge, which I think was the right call. Had we seen that lineup for the full 6 rounds, I don't think this is a 5-1 for SSG. I think DZ is able to take at minimum 1 more round, maybe 2, because there were a couple of those rounds that came quite close, and I don't necessarily know if you can credit the operator lineup for DZ for how close those rounds were.
Yeah, it's tricky to pin it all on the operator lineup. I agree. In that case, I also agree with you in that the operator lineup was not ideal. The experiment failed, and I have to pay at least some respect to DarkZero because they figured out that their experiment failed pretty early on. 3 rounds is, yeah, that's a long time by some account, but also it's not terrible. It's not unrecoverable, but it is also a 5-1 scoreline in the end. And that's the most important thing, because this is going to be difficult, to say the least, for DarkZero to come back from, though not impossible. Early on here, the line was flaunted, but ultimately 6 picked away from by SSG. So they're going to be bringing a much more, as you said, orthodox lineup, or conventional, whatever word you want to use to describe it.
Why do you just spit it? Conventional.
Conventional.
A little bit more orthodox or conventional. Why the ooh?
Probably
Why
because we use the word a lot. I think it's one of those words that's stuck in our vernacular, and we bring it out a lot because it describes what we expect to happen, what is most in meta. And there's only so many words that we're going to be able to use to really emphasize that. And I think orthodox is a good one. I like it. It's a nice alternative. So when you're going to switch out every here and there.
Oh, I want to say, the word is good.
It is.
I took great umbrage with the emphasis that you applied to it. That's all.
Well, I didn't want to make the word feel bad, so that's on me. I think I can work on my toning a little bit, or my tone, I guess, a little bit more. It could be a little bit less emphasized. So let me try it again. Orthodox or conventional, whichever word you want to use. Is that better?
Yes.
Excellent. So, with all that done now, half the round has transpired here, and neither team has gotten a pick. It looks like SSG is going for a pretty orthodox execution on the top floor, but they haven't managed to get cocktail control just yet. And since this is a dining defense, DZ is doing a great job of delaying this attack.
This is really a crucial round for DarkZero, and it sucks for them to have to start off on the precipice of a loss because you only have 1 round to get this right. You lose this round, you play the remainder of your defense staring down match point. That's a dreaded spot to be in for any team. Doesn't matter how good of a amount of mental fortitude you have, which is a phrase that we throw out regularly. No team is going to find themselves in a position where they thrive in that particular circumstance, and that's where it becomes real rough. The good news for both teams is that you haven't surrendered anything right now. Eclipse is the only one who's taken some damage, but right as I say that, Caster's Curse comes into effect and Rampy manages to punishment from above. This upstairs control for Space Station is very orthodox, as you call it, Michael, and it could be what ultimately tilts the round in favor for Space Station, as it seems for now that DarkZero doesn't really have any opportunity to be able to claw this back. But down goes Fultz as Canadian is attempting the plant. DZ might not understand this. Bosco with 1. It's 2 knife kills in a row, but the play from Hyper on Pillars is good enough. He'll have to do more than usual, though, because he's the only one remaining on his team. SSG has a good spread. Hyper distracted from above, but he's not aware that there are 2 more members of Space Station playing in the bomb site. He'll tussle over by Pillars, but his position is now known, so the remaining members from Space Station can all look in the same spot. Only 1 down below now. This is going to be very tricky for Hyper. They drop an anvil on his head and he runs right into the waiting arms of Canadian, and Space Station will move to match point.
All right, nice job there for Space Station. Now 1 away from locking this out. The execution upstairs was really well done. It looked like they might have lost it to time for a second, but no. DarkZero just failed to maintain control of their site, allowed the plant to happen in the dying seconds of the round, and ultimately that was the final nail in the round's coffin. Now, it's not done yet. We've still got 1 more round that SSG need to get in order to take this all and push us to map number 3. But it's certainly looking like it's all but over at this point. A 6-1 scoreline speaks for itself.
I mean, we say this now.
Mm-hmm.
We're in that weird position where we are either I feel like we're either 3 minutes away from a conclusion, or we are the entire map away from a conclusion. I cannot tell you the amount of times where we've been casting a match and it just looks like it's over, and you kind of settle in and you start looking at the other map, and you think to yourself, okay, this one's a done deal, etc. And the next thing you know, there's still another 40 minutes left to play. For DZ fans, they're going to cling to that. They need to ensure that DZ is sticking around. I pointed it out just a minute or two ago. DZ start off in a position where if they lose round number 1 of their defense, the remainder of all their defenses need to be perfect. It is going to be a significant challenge to go flawless the rest of their defense. It's doable. There's only been 2 attacking round victories so far. It's very statistically likely, but it's not probable.
If it were to happen, it would be one of the more incredible comebacks we've seen in a long time.
Absolutely.
So we'll wait and find out. Now, currently the setup is shields. 4 of them in play here. 2 from Mint, 1 from Eclipse, 1 from Skies. So 2 of those, the non-exploding shields, are all positioned by Bathroom and Pixel. The other 2, I'm not sure where, but they're there somewhere. Looks like one in the shower, or not in the shower. One in back bar storage, and I actually don't know where the 4th one is, but whatever the case, Fultz will get the first kill. That's the lead off on a hot and cold, and he is gone. He's been quiet for this map, and he'll continue to whisper in a corner, give callouts on cams, as he peeked Cocktail and died as a result. That was completely unnecessary. And now I'm betting he's probably kicking himself because of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't be particularly happy about that one. Opening kills tell a pretty good story for most of these teams so far, especially with what we saw on Coastline and how dominant the team that gets the first pick ends up going on to win the round. Hot and cold being punished, obviously not ideal, but this is a common spot for a Warden to play. I was hoping that we would see one, and DarkZero likes this spot in particular. Eclipse finds 1. There might be a 2nd as well. He gets shaken from his position, will now need to try to fight his way out, but Fultz doesn't miss shots like that, and he claims his 2nd so far. Back in the lead in terms of man count is Space Station.
They are certainly looking solid for the win. Mint is playing in Bathroom. He's got his 2nd shield here. He can continue to hold on to the push from Piano thanks to that 2nd shield. First one is destroyed. Ooh, and an ace Selma goes onto the wall. That will force Mint out. That's huge. So main factor here is that they've got control of Pixel, and SSG also has the man advantage. They might be able to just turn that into a round win, especially with the last 40 seconds being actually a lot of time in this position in terms of control.
Deployable shield spotted with the volcanic explosion waiting if Fultz chooses to fight this. Mint will hang on to the spot right now, just wait ever so patiently. He'd Fultz lined up in front of his very eyes. 10 kills, 3 deaths, those are pretty good numbers. There goes the shield though, and it will buy Mint some time as he tries to scurry away. At least we think that. He decides to stay and fight, so he'll stand his ground for now as more pings come in for Space Station as they close in on the bomb site. Fultz so far 3 huge kills. He's only got 2 more, and then he's got them all as Canadian will have the objective played down pat. Hyper in a bad spot as he'll have to reload that Alda. 4th kill from Fultz. All he needs is 1 more. The ace puts an exclamation mark on that round, and with it, the map goes in favor of Space Station 7-1. A statement to bounce back after Coastline, and we have a 3rd map between these teams.
A beautiful job there to Fultz, acing for the round, and it did look like DZ was going to be able to hold on to that one, at least in terms of the strategy. But Fultz, because of his well-placed shots, proves that theory wrong. DarkZero now will have to fight on the 3rd and final map, Villa, to see who will take the series as a whole. Space Station, though, a very confident answer to a very close map in the first series in this now 2nd map, Cafe.
And this basically becomes a best of 1. DarkZero wins Space Station's map. It takes 14 rounds, but they manage to muscle it out. Space Station obliterates DarkZero on map number 2, leaving Villa up as the decider. And I know like you, I know like me, most of you are going to be very excited for Villa, but we got a couple of things to do before we get there. So a break, don't touch your browser, then the analysts. Sit tight because we got one more map to settle this between these two teams.
Nice shot for me. Perfect.
Welcome back. We are still in the midst of our very first matchup, and well, we've got a map 3, an exciting one for you as we just concluded Cafe Dostoevsky, and we've had two interesting things happen in this matchup already, Michael. So far, these teams have played each other 3 times since July, and no map has gone to overtime, and no map has been a blowout. We smashed both of those streaks today, with map number 1 going to overtime and map number 2 being a very decisive 7-1 victory in favor of SSG. That puts Villa up next. These teams have played here twice before. This will be the 3rd time. SSG has won both times. Do you think DarkZero has what it takes to be able to inch themselves back and win the series given their history against Space Station on Villa?
Well, they certainly got a chance, that's for sure. That's their moment here and now, but reasonably speaking, this is a better map for Space Station. You look at it in the head-to-head, and Space Station wins on Villa. You look at it in the big picture, and Space Station wins more on Villa. And you look at the result that we just got on Cafe, and it's hard to say that Space Station is not the favorite team going into the 3rd and final map. Yes, DZ won the first map, but it was darn close. And map number 2, Cafe, not close at all. Completely one-sided. You can see that based on these stats up on your screen right now. 7-1 favor SSG, and really there wasn't much of a performance put up by DZ. It almost seemed like they collapsed after the first half. And yeah, going into map 3, I'd say Space Station are in a great spot.
Fultz aced on the final round to win the map for his team. How incredible is that? If you ever want to talk about carrying the team on your back, Fultz acing, putting the nail in the coffin for DZ on that map. Absolutely incredible showing. On the other side of the equation, the best player from map number 1, in my opinion, hot and cold, was very much the latter part of his name, Cold. He went 1-8, dying every single round and only mustering a single largely unimpactful kill. He's going to need to be better on Villa. All of DZ are going to need to be better after what we just saw on Cafe. We need DZ like we saw on Coastline. Maybe a little bit better than that because that was still a little bit too close. So far between these two teams, I give the edge to Space Station. And well, if they maintain that edge, then they will prevail in this matchup and move on to tomorrow. Whereas the loser of this match will go down to the lower bracket and will play later today. Let's get things started underway with Villa. Map number 3 between these teams. SSG will be starting on attack, DZ on defense. And well, is it any surprise that Ying is banned out? These teams don't want to deal with her. They don't want to play her. She's good as gone.
Yeah, it's going to be Nomad as well. So these are actually the same attacking bans that we saw on Cafe. A little bit of a change up, though, in the defensive side. We got Mira banned out. leaving DarkZero with the final ban. Who's it gonna be? Will we have Wamai? Will it be Valkyrie? It'll be Wamai. There it is. So Wamai is a very common ban on a lot of maps these days because of the current meta we find ourselves in. As Parker talked about earlier today, we are awaiting the very anticipated change that will be coming with the new update. But since it's not live yet, since those nerfs haven't rolled out, we still are in the same meta that we've been in for a while now. And banning Wamai makes sense as such. We'll be going to, interestingly, Kitchen for the first site from DarkZero. It's a little bit different, but it's not like unheard of. You could go to Kitchen instead of a Trophy or Aviator. And looks like quite a lot of C4 being brought as well in defensive lineup. That'll aid the defense in denying some vertical pressure later in the round.
Starting downstairs on Dining and Kitchen. All right, not a bad place for them to begin. There is a bit of a weird flow to Villa that has changed over time. So for those of you that have followed the long history of this wonderful, quaint Italian visage, if you want to call it that, the top floors, bomb sites were by far and away the two most defender favored. Whether that be Aviator on the one side or whether that be Trophy on the other. The Trophy Statuary bomb site tends to be somewhat above Kitchen. Teams have slowly stopped defending Trophy Statuary in the same numbers as they used to because teams now favor the way that Kitchen plays out. You can defend Kitchen very similarly to the way you defend Trophy Statuary. The key difference is that there's an extra layer to it. There's more work to be done.
Yeah.
The term that we often use to describe it is a buffer, and the buffer zone is that top floor. So even if your opponents take control of Trophy Statuary, they still need to translate some of that control to the bomb site down below, which takes place in Kitchen. Expect to see DZ aggressively defending upstairs, and while it looks like that's exactly what's happening right now, SSG's first steps are going to be to take control of that top floor by any means necessary, and it will start with the discovery phase as we begin round number 1.
Is it really Visage? I always said Visage. Is that just like a pronunciation thing?
I don't know. That's how I say it.
Visage. I mean, it sounds neat. Kitchen is still the site, but the focus is the top floor right now for Space Station. They've got a lot of clearing to do upstairs. Looks like 2 roamers currently entrenched on the top floor. Got some shields to support, some ADSs to cover those shields. It looks like a pretty heavy investment in utility overall. The main focus here for the defense is Astro. They want to hold on to the top floor for as long as they can, and Astro is the place that they'll try to do that. EMPs will allow for the Selmas from Ace to open up the wall into Astro. That's going to be really good utility use from SSG. And with the roamers forced out, they can shift their focuses to the site take and opening up above. However, they've used up 2 minutes to try and get this control, and they're going to have to use it very well now that they have it.
SSG don't want to toil up here too long, but there's a Banshee just right underneath Fultz. There goes a Nitro Cell, possibly even an Impact, but no, it was a Nitro Cell. No impacts on the board. I was wondering if it was a Nitro Cell with how little damage was done. I think Rampy took maybe 2 or 3 points of damage. That's about it. You don't usually see a Nitro Cell do that little. But anyway, it's going to allow Rampy to continue swinging away as he goes for Extreme Makeover Home Edition upstairs inside of Villa, taking out all the numerous rugs that are available, and need we remind you of how many there are on the map. Canadian is the first to die as Bosco now loses half of his HP, so SSG are not in the greatest of shape. Hyper is also ready to strike from above, and because DZ have the numbers, there's no problem if Hyper loses this one out. Damage being done to Skies, but Rampy's still up there. Fultz finds Eclipse, and well, if you're Hyper, you gotta go, and you gotta go in a hurry. Fultz is in the middle of the bomb site, by the way. Holding an angle, waiting for Rampy. He's going to do some damage to Skies. Get dropped, finished off with the sidearm. 2 big kills for Fultz. He catches one more, pistol out, engages on the Valkyrie. He wins it. Diffuser going down from Rampy, thinking Nade gets one, but here comes Hyper. He can't stop the plant from going down, and Rampy will be able to get away with it. But there's Rampy and Fultz in on the action. Fultz the previous kill. Rampy does all the work himself, and round number 1 goes to Space Station.
What a collapse there from Space Station. The vertical didn't really net as much as they wanted, but when executing direct into the site, the engagement potential of Space Station won out. Fultz with some great play there on the Ash, doing a lot of work and shutting down the initial anchor layer. The plant going down just in the nick of time was clutch as heck for Space Station. DarkZero, again, really struggling with their engagements. I'll be blunt about it. That Valkyrie over by China, I believe it was mid, though I don't know definitively, missed some very crucial shots. And that is a major difference maker in a round like that. It's possible Valkyrie wins that fight in another scenario and then goes on to stop the plant. Or maybe gives an opportunity for Hyper to wide swing out of laundry and stop the plant himself. No matter what, though, that's not what happened. Space Station take firm control of this map. So we'll go to Trophy now for the second bomb site. See if DarkZero can change some things here. They have 6 picked off of the Valkyrie into a Clash. This is a very different information operator, though still an information operator, and DZ will be able to leverage it not only gather info, but also to delay a push.
10 seconds left before insertion.
Why does this keep happening to me?
What happened?
Oh, I say, this bomb site doesn't really get played anymore. Happened with Cocktail.
Right.
What happens? SSG goes to Cocktail next round.
Well, they lost
I say,
Cocktail.
oh, Trophy Stats Rate doesn't really happen. They love to go down to Kitchen. What bomb site does DZ pull up next? Trophy Statuary.
They did it, yeah.
Need I remind you that I don't need help looking like an idiot? I do it enough on my own. Now SSG and DarkZero, both teams have now done it to me.
Yeah, I mean, they lost, though. They lost when they went to Cocktail, so maybe DZ's going to lose now that they've gone to Statuary.
Well, they lost Kitchen, to be fair. They've already lost one bomb site, even though I did defend that spot. I think that's a good bomb site to have.
Yeah, Kitchen is a really solid bomb site.
Now, the downstairs play doesn't tend to linger that much on this bomb site. You can already see that DZ has not really put much importance in holding the floor below either Trophy nor Statuary. And even though Eclipse is currently roaming, if he gets spotted out, well, he could very easily get pressured. And that's not great for him. He's going to lay in wait. I don't know if he's trying to fight his way out of it or not, but he's downstairs in the cellars that get often underused on this map. The wine cellar down below, the basement floor, isn't really all that important. There goes a Nitro cell, and Rampy, or Fultz rather, just misses it. And Rampy does as well. It could have claimed either of them. And they're going to try to shake out as much of that control in Astro. It's going to get challenging when they go to transition to Astro because there's a clash on the board. You don't want to waste too much of your utility on SSG's side. If you're DZ, you want to juggle that as best as you can. The ADS on the stairs of Astro will be incredibly important to burn some of that away and try to keep Mint alive as long as possible.
These guys will eat a little bit of damage there from, I believe, the impact from Bosco, but not enough damage to net the kill. Hyper will be the one to get the first kill, and it is indeed Bosco who is the first casualty of this round. Fishing for kills below is going to be the nades from Rampy. He doesn't get anything, though, because luckily for Skies, he's elevated and protected from the explosion and shrapnel. Only 50 seconds left for Space Station to get the pick back and start their push onto the site. Rampy trying to creep his way up the red stairs. The clash is still in play, so that delay factor will be very important when the actual site take comes out. Hodden's playing a very aggressive over by safe. Now, this is a good position to play at times, but not when Rampy's at top red. And there you go, the kill out. SSG has regained the man even. Well, entry here. Rampy won't get the second. He misses a lot of crucial shots there, but Canadian will eliminate Skies. Clips back, though, onto SSG. Hyper as well. The Clash whips out the SMG and takes down Rampy. It's all on Fultz now to kill 3 in a row. Doesn't seem likely with the Clash still here. Diffuser down. Only 8 seconds. It's just not gonna happen. Fultz with half HP will lose it to time. A nice try, but he cannot kill both of these defenders, given that the shield is in play. DarkZero take round number 2.
Rough spot to be in with that much remaining for DarkZero, but you got to give credit to DZ for how they were able to balance out the aggressiveness that came from SSG. Canadian in particular looked like he was going to try to get that diffuser down. He was walking right into the clash, and I will say that if Rampy hadn't missed his shots, that it's very likely that Canadian doesn't have to fear a crossfire being established from Trophy. All he needs to do is focus on the clash. The smoke was able to block off a line of sight. You wouldn't have needed as aggressive a push up from Rampy to try and make things right, and the clash likely would have gotten picked apart. That mass confusion obviously happened and was set about by what I would imagine was the scramble in the dying seconds to get the diffuser down, and a lot of communication over top of it. You can be the world champions and still flub around because you can't communicate in the cut and thrust appropriately. Not every team is going to have perfect comms. It happens. And that confusion that came out, Rampy's inability to hit his shots, forced SSG to have to make new plans about where they could plant, because Canadian's plant spot relied on there being nobody from DarkZero inside a trophy. The fact that Rampy couldn't get that one piece of the puzzle away, which then would have recalled the other member of DarkZero who's playing over by Astro, possibly be watched from Rampy, that was ultimately what set everything in motion. And it empowered the Clash, who didn't have to fear any kind of concussions, didn't have to fear any disruption, to just walk right up and take the engagement in the middle of the smoke. And the confusion that SSG had somewhat caused themselves ultimately is their undoing at the hands of DarkZero. Well played by DarkZero to manage the clock and gadgetry that was being brought from SSG, and honestly, a pretty impressive round. And once again, it just makes me look foolish again because I said the trophy statuary isn't a great bomb site and they win it. So, you know, I'm done with it today. I am the caliber Jacob of casting at the moment. No predictions allowed.
Well, you know, I mean, there's room to be wrong every once in a while. And, you know, you got to remember, if a defense wins 40% of the time on a site, yeah, that makes it a bad site. But that means that 40% of the time, still somebody wins there. So it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. It's not that drastic. SSG have very quickly cleared out the master statuary trophy side of the top floor, as you can see. They're starting to set up for their execution toward the site, which is over by Games Aviator. Hyper on a long angle using the Goyo shield will get nothing, actually. It's False who gets the kill into Eclipse. The timing of that. False will be downstairs hunting roamers. Eclipse just trying to be that roamer, maybe do some damage from below, but he gets nothing for it. Hyper actually is right now the star of DZ. Take a look at the scoreboard for just a second here. He has been the performer, not the standout, but the performer for his team. And as his teammates continue to die around him, more pressure on Hyper's shoulders.
Well, I mean, you want to give Hyper some credit here. Fultz is averaging 2 kills around at the moment, which is really unsustainable. I think we heaped praise on Shaiko at the 6 Invitational because his kills per round were 1.05. And right now, Fultz is averaging 2. And last game, he had 13 kills over 8 rounds, an impressive figure. So as much as our pull was between Hyper and Rampy, it's been Fultz who's been carrying the load for his team, and that's part of what makes SSG a strong team. They can have either Fultz or Rampy take over a game. Whereas you see like a team like DZ, they are usually much more structured, and there's not always a breakout performer on DarkZero, but if there is, it tends to be Hyper more often than not.
Not always, you're right, but certainly most of the time. That's why they picked him up so long ago. I remember when that was a questionable decision. Skies will get Canadian, though. So DZ's not out of this round. And since it's Skies contributing, that is big. He's going to have some impact frags, I'm sure, moving forward. Hyper gets one for himself. Down goes Fultz. Only 30 seconds for the attack to actually execute onto the site. Rampy's got the diffuser by Skull, but there's nobody to cover him on Skull. The rest of the attack is set up. Thatcher will rotate, though, and he's the coverage, but down goes your diffuser carrier, and now Bosco is the man tagged in. Thinking Nate eliminated in study, but he trades with Mint. Gas canister doing lots of damage to Bosco. Half of his HP is gone, and now he's got 5 seconds to rush into 2 guns. It's just not going to happen. Hyper shuts him down. DarkZero get 2 rounds in a row.
How come when I talk about somebody or something, they prove me wrong, but then you talk about how great Hyper is, and then he just has a barn burner of a round? It's not fair, Michael.
It just happenstance.
It's not
Parker.
fair.
You're
okay?
just getting unlucky.
So if you were watching this and you were in one of the upcoming matches, simply pay Kickstar money, then he will say nice things about you, and
then
you will
win.
excel. That's how it works.
It's the inverse caster curse.
You were the caster blessing, apparently.
Yeah, sure. Lucky me. Wait, does that mean I can't praise anyone because it'll be seen as match fixing?
Yes.
Is that how this works
that is
now?
Exactly correct.
Darn it! So I can only say bad things now.
That's perfect. Go off.
Space Station, over-invested in the downstairs clear, under-invested in the site hit, didn't have enough control by West Hall, and thus couldn't pinch any of the anchors, letting them maneuver too freely and win too many engagements on better positioning. There you go. So, yeah, bad Space Station, bad.
Thank you for that. You gotta balance it out, right?
Yeah, right.
Right now, it is very much the story of the hard carries on these teams, because if you remove Fultz from his team and Hyper from his team, there are only 5 kills between either team. 5 kills on SSG, 5 kills on DZ, 6 for Hyper, 6 for Fultz. And it's always an impressive performance when these players are capable of taking over a game. It can't go without being said that your support players are what enable this. Fultz isn't getting the kills on his own most of the time. He's being droned in. The utility that he doesn't have to deal with, the gadgets that are laying in front of him that might not be an obstacle, are removed by his teammates. Whether it be ADSs that are flashed out, whether it be grenades that go in to weaken people, etc. It doesn't tell the whole story. The kill feed is not the be-all and end-all. It is not your god. You need to play as a team, and both of them right now are doing a tremendous job of that. And despite the fact that Villa inhabits this weird role where sometimes we see very attacker favored, or even flavored, if you want, style of Villas, right now DarkZero have looked much more stalwart on their defense. And they'll go back down to Kitchen now for round number 4, the only bomb site that they have not been successful on defense so far.
I wonder what that would taste like. Anyway.
Defender flavor?
Yeah.
Michael, if you could lick any defender, which defender is it and why is it smoke?
What?
What's in the canister?
You know, that is a good, I wonder what it tastes like. You know,
I
it
wonder
might be
what
toxic.
I wonder, yeah. Bosco's down, by the way, finished off by Skies. Skies is, I think Skies is a very underrated smoke and doesn't get a lot of conversation in that role. Like I said, I think he and his success are often a byproduct of the system that DZ plays into.
Right.
DZ doesn't tend to have one real standout performer, whereas SSG does often rely more on Rampy and Fultz showing up. And if Fultz and Rampy have an off day at the same time, that can prove to be quite problematic. Canadian almost dies to a swing from Skies, punished by Thinking Nade. Thinking Nade is always the mother hen over top of Canadian, watching his every move and protecting him at every single chance he gets. Hot and Cold has also been downed. A hard destruction from Canadian applied to the pantry wall means that the push into Kitchen will be a little bit easier. Hot and Cold finished off by Thinking Nade as he'll collect his second kill as he was trying to crawl for salvation. As Canadian now goes on to drone, setting us up for the cut and thrust of the round and the final push that will need to be made from SSG.
So this setup right now from SSG, we talked about how in the last attack they were missing the anvil, but they had the hammer. Here, both exist. SSG is in a great position, but Hyper will down Canadian, putting us into a 3-on-3. No opportunity to pick up there. There's only 30 seconds. Sophia has to keep his gun up. Eclipse will also get Fultz. That's a huge kill. Suddenly, it's looking a lot like DZ are going to take this in the last 20 seconds. Last 2 attackers stuck in storage, and they're going to push their way into Kitchen, but they have to cover the cross, and it's just not going to happen. You can see he's Thinking Nade down. He'll Zofia himself up, but Eclipse finishes it off before it even gets started. DarkZero, great hold on the site. It all started when Hyper gunned down one who was coming out from storage, and the rest of DZ collapsed.
So just to put the numbers that we see right now into context, the 2 times that Villa has been played by these teams, the score line was 7-3 for SSG and then 7-5 for SSG. If Space Station goes perfect from here on out, DZ has already matched their total from the very first time they played. Now, obviously, you're not going to be happy about that. It doesn't matter. But the fact that within the first 4 rounds, DZ is already within striking distance of their best result against Space Station means that they are currently beating the projection that we have for them. In fact, if you really want to dive into it and speculate, which is always fun, DZ is just getting better incrementally. And I mean, if your last time was a loss, 5-7, that means your next victory should be a 7-5 for DarkZero. And now that I've said that, it's absolutely not going to happen, but at least I still said it out loud because of speculation, etc.
Parker, did you just willingly curse DarkZero? You're culpable for that, you know?
You just went in on that.
I did curse them. Yes.
The whole stream knows.
There was an incredible bidding war between Shonduras and Zach for my specialty as a curse, and ultimately Space Station backed up a dump truck full of money into my driveway, and Zach just couldn't match it. So I said, I'm sorry, Zach, I can't really do too much. I have to curse you. And he hung his head and he said, I totally understand. We are but cogs in this capitalist machine. I respect that. And I said, thank you.
Oh, man. Oh, well, that's...
But now that I've said it out loud, it maybe now it'll go the other way. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe, because you've just cursed the curse.
Now you need to compliment Space Station for equilibrium to be achieved.
Space Station, nice job losing your top frag early on. That was great. Brilliant move. Now, you might not know this, chat, but that was actually deliberate. And the reason they did that is so that the rest of Space Station can enter into the scoreboard and make themselves look a little bit better.
Yeah,
so
Space Station turned to themselves and they said, you know what, Fultz, just die early. We really need some motivation.
Yeah, too many frags for Fultz. So Space Station now given an opportunity to really perform. We'll see what they can do with it.
Yeah, he said, my bad.
Yeah.
I'll set this one out. It is a replay of a very similar defense that we saw before. Now, as it is once again a crack at trophy statuary, the library living room defense, which we have seen some teams in North America prefer, is not going to be in the wheelhouse of DarkZero for this Villa defense. And that's okay. They're going to go with trophy statuary, which is just more of a personal decision, or a team decision, rather. I feel like I already said stylistic, so I don't want to say it a second time. And given the immense struggles that Space Station had on taking this bomb site before, I don't think this is a bad choice at all.
No, I think that it's definitely, this is still a round that could swing either way. I think right now DarkZero is feeling a little bit more favored because they've got the roamer still, and because they've still got the clash. And as we hit the last minute with a man advantage on top of all that, time is going to become a serious factor for Space Station, as it seems to have done many of these rounds. So they need to speed things up a little bit. They got to be careful. Skies will eat some damage from Canadian. That's big. An aggressive push from Skies. I mean, he saves his shield unwittingly by pushing the Selma aside with his body, but he could have easily died there. Luckily for Skies, he doesn't. Mint eats a lot of damage from that nade, but he's still in the fight. And that's all that really matters as the Astro take continues to encroach on DZ's position. Bosco's got a great spot here. He's worried about the clash. He'll try to Zofia from below, but I don't think he has any left. No, he doesn't. Hyper gets thinking nades, so DZ extending their lead. Bosco, Rampy, and Canadian still have to deal with the clash in the corner of Astro, and that is just so much harder to say than to do. Here comes the double push. It's a trade back and forth, but ultimately Rampy is the last attacker. His position known. He'll get one, but that is probably it. As he pushes towards trophy, his chances are 0. It'll be around for DarkZero.
Man, DZ are just making SSG look so mortal on this map. Right now, DZ's defense, incredible. They've now won this first half, and they bring out a whole bag of party tricks. That clash play that we know that DZ favors often. Mint and shields, name a better combo. They go together like apple pie in America, for example. Yeah, there you go. So
I was going to say it. You asked me to name a better combo. I was like, oh, I know this one. I was so happy.
Do you want to do that again? Do you want to try it again?
Yeah, let's do it again.
Okay. Mint and shields go together so well. Name a better combo.
Apple pie in America.
That's what I was thinking, Michael.
Dude, we're on the same wavelength.
We're on the same wavelength.
Let's go.
We rehearsed this. Regardless, SSG knows that there will be a clash in play, or at least there is a risk of a clash in play. Now, SSG has also run clash before. Canadian on Oregon is probably the shining example of how they like to use that operator. DZ's construction of the bomb site and the way that they use their gadgets is excellent, and it forced on that very first trophy and statuary take for SSG. It forced them to take it from two separate angles. One, SSG needed to spend way too much time downstairs on a bomb site where you don't usually keep somebody downstairs. Your sole focus is to clear out utility from below, take control of Astro while somebody pushes in from bathroom. You can't really do that if there's a clash anchored down in Astro, which is exactly where Mint was playing at the start of the very first trophy statuary defense. The bad news for SSG on that second attempt was that you never actually needed Mint to move from that spot because SSG realized we need to more aggressively attack Astro. You had a stack up. You had two members come through bathroom. You tried to get a split through master to go into the actual bomb site itself, and you had somebody playing down below. All for naught. All for naught. None of it went anywhere because you had no utility left at that point. Because of the deployable shields and the ADSs in play, you could not knock the Clash around, and Mint would not reveal any of his vulnerabilities behind that shield. So all you had to do was continuously take fights. Your focus is on the Clash because you don't know what she's going to do, and everybody from DZ just snapped. And they had you all lined up. And this round was just as decisive as the last one. Really good stuff from DarkZero.
You know, that's the thing. We were going into this one, and I guess subverting expectations is the name of this best of three, because everything suggested that SSG was in the favor. Now, with that said, the favor could change as we transition to the second half. DarkZero right now is making a bid for a definitive first half. If they take the 5-1, things get real difficult for Space Station. Like, seriously very hard to recover from a 5-1. Possible, but hard. If this ends in a 4-2, it's a lot more likely we'll see a recovery. That's a big miss there from Fultz. Eclipse gets the C4 he wanted and gets away with his life. Fultz now needs to fish for the refrag. But who's pushing an SAS operator around a corner? It's just not gonna happen. So he'll push back to the site knowing that there's no more C4 in the pocket of that defender on the roam.
The underlying numbers right now for DZ are incredibly impressive. 4 opening duels breaking in their favor. High survival rate for a lot of their players. Once again, Hot and Cold is really the only poor performer at the moment. And boy, oh boy, if DarkZero can do this with Hot and Cold in his current funk, then you can only imagine if he wakes up in the next half, what that's going to do to their fortunes. Mind you, SSG will have the benefit of defense at that point. But DZ's numbers right now are excellent here across the board on DarkZero. Hot and Cold ends up falling to Fultz, so the numbers for the team back to even with 30 seconds remaining, and a showdown of sorts will happen to see which team takes flight here on Aviator. Fultz over by 90 will have to push towards Classical Hallway, but there's a deployable shield in front of him. He doesn't have anything at his disposal to deal with it. So Mint can play off of that small line of sight. Canadian charges in. He gets gunned down and clapped by Eclipse as both he and Mint are back to back. Mint finished off from Fultz, who just springs on in as Bosco takes damage. He knows he can't really do too much. He's got the diffuser, but what's he going to do as his teammates are falling all in front of him? It's time for him to try to get the diffuser down, but he's left hanging, cut and dry. And there's Thinking Nade. Goodbye to him as he tries to charge into the site, and none other than Hyper with a statement kill. The same scoreline for the first half of Cafe happens here on Villa, but instead of it being SSG doing it to DZ, it's the other way around. DarkZero, an excellent first round.
Huge round there for DZ, and we'll transition now onto the second half. Now, the end of that round was really quite interesting. The smokes being in play still were huge, of course, and doing a lot of damage to some of the attackers on SSG. Fultz, as you saw there, he did down his teammate. That was truly unfortunate. If there wasn't miscommunication and a little bit of fluster going on the side of SSG, then after that round, there will be now. So that's something that should be considered moving forward here. It looks like SSG are tripping over themselves just a little bit. That does not mean that they've lost this map and thus this series already, but it's worth taking note of. That last round, Space Station tried to funnel themselves into bottlenecks. They got locked up, shut down, and absolutely destroyed on those bottlenecks. And yeah, again, it's another one of those, the hammer anvil strat, but without the anvil, if that makes sense. It's just too linear. So defense now for Space Station. We'll see how this works out for them. A 5-1 is not impossible to recover from, as I stated earlier, just improbable. And DarkZero looks poised to take this series. A brief reminder, if DZ does win this series, then they will go forward into the winner bracket, but Space Station still will have a chance in the loser bracket, and that goes for whoever ends up where.
DZ look completely different than what we saw on Cafe. They were limp, they were lackluster, they weren't really winning gunfights, they didn't seem to have a pretty good strategy, and when things weren't working, they didn't really do anything to change it. And the biggest example that we talked about was that Dokkaebi Jackal Lion combo for the first 3 rounds on Cafe. That was quite unsuccessful, and only one of those rounds ended up being even decently close. This time around, it is the Hyper show for DarkZero, but the rest of the team isn't doing too poorly. And like I said, the underlying stats for DZ are really impressive as well. Hyper breaking 12 kills in 7 rounds is really remarkable. We will now see as he moves to attack, and he will play on Zofia, an operator that he is extremely familiar with, if he's able to keep up that tempo. He's already used both of his explosives, and with it being a trophy and statuary defense, Zofia is going to be integral for either getting rid of the Banshees or the Evil Eye cams that might be in place. Given that he's already used his explosives, that will mean that Sky's frag grenades will be really important to do that. But for backup, you've got Mint on Thatcher. So those in conjunction with one another, and Mint actually having all of his EMPs available, mean that it's possible that they can do some great work here. Oh no. Canadian almost gets shot at his feet through the soft wall over by Vault. He'll fall off his position on 90. Or so it looked like he was going to. He might try to stay and fight. At this point, he has a Nitro Cell, and there's half the round to go. He can waste some more time here and slow down DarkZero.
Since he's staying and fighting, the round can hinge on this engagement. You could see Mint getting up on 90 repel here. If he's able to position himself there, that means he'll be able to get the kill. But look at that. The Wolf cutoff is gone. And so Canadian can make it back to a safer position over by landing. That's huge. So Mint was trying to rotate to get the kill aggressively. But because he wasn't on Wolf balcony anymore, the rotate is facilitated. And Space Station went out there by keeping their player alive and wasting so much time. Oh, look at this too. A C4 underneath 90, and Mint just barely saves himself there by positioning himself on the other side of the pillar from the C4. That was huge.
Don't know if he actually knew it was there, but there goes a grenade tossed out from DarkZero, and only 4 kills separates them from match point, and they've got to be excited about that one. Canadian is the one to fall, and he hasn't been having a very good map here on Villa whatsoever. DZ assembling over on the south side, but thinking nade sprays away, and he manages to take one down before Hyper comes in, asserts his dominance, but Fultz finds 2 kills. Hot and Cold going for the plant. He's smited and eclipses as well. The MP5 too much for them to handle, and SSG, well, they clamp down on the interlopers, if you want to call them that. And SSG takes their 2nd round in this map.
Yeah, I don't think he knew about the C4 either. I meant it like coincidentally.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I guess I should have worded that differently, or maybe it's the tone.
I mean, maybe.
Who knows? Yeah, he might have heard it, but I doubt it. Anyway, the round there, I think a lot of that will hinge on Canadians rolling by 90. That was huge for him. Huge for his team as well. He managed to delay the round way too long. Somebody on DarkZero needed to take an assertive push onto him and just go for the fight on 90. That's the simple truth. The fact that Mint rotated off of the Wolf balcony, that was crippling because it means Canadian wastes all that time and he gets away with it. That's unfortunate. He did end up getting naded by landing in the end, but that's, you know, damage done at that point. And following that, since DZ was so pressed for time, it's really a slaughter when they went in for the site take. And I think DarkZero put in a really good effort when it came to the site execution, but everything was against them at that point. So it's not, you know, surprising that they lost the round in the end.
Defense looking good so far here on Villa for both teams, though we've only got a small snapshot of it for Space Station. They're going to go down below, interesting enough, into a library living room. Library living room.
Library, I like that. That
the
sounds
library
better.
living room. What do you do down there? I live.
You do a little bit of lounging in the
You do a little bit of living and you do a little bit of living.
Yeah, sure, that.
Living room library. At least I don't say it like library.
Library?
Yeah, we used to have a politician here in Canada. I guess we still do technically, who calls them libraries.
Weird, isn't that?
It's my favorite kind of berry.
I swear that's an actual berry, right? Like, am I crazy?
Maybe. Anyway, so this is downstairs in living room library, and this is what we talked about in the first half. DZ did not find this bomb site to be one worth defending. The way that teams usually take this bomb site is they'll go for the double panels by the armoire, which is right now in the center of your screen. Teams will take from kitchen, they'll shoot open those 2 panels, and then they'll try to push and funnel their way in. The wall to the right of Bosco is usually reinforced, so that's the challenging point for any hard breacher to go through, and sure enough, there are the panels that are defending it. It's a triple panel wall at the bottom of the red stairs, and that's where the target, I would imagine, for hot and cold is going to be. And we'll see what he'll be able to do with that, as DZ have already got one part of the execute down pat, which is take control of kitchen and Memorial. Mint is in there. No real worse for wear about his position. Doesn't have to worry about being provoked by a roamer, and he's on drone. Additionally, DarkZero is bringing Jackal to try and alleviate some of the pressure from the offsite play from SSG, of which there is many operators.
Seems there's going to be a pretty direct take here from DarkZero. They are going specifically on the north side. Now, the danger here is the control that Fultz has above. If you look at Fultz, you can see he's got a lot of angles. He can play from above to deny the push from the north side in this gun vault. And from here, if Fultz is not pushed off, he will probably win the round by himself. That's why people clear above this site before executing onto the site. Smoke's going out, an attempted plant here from Hot and Cold. It looks like nothing's going to stop it. The nades are going up, and it's Fultz from the gun vault looking through the smoke because he's playing Warden, who will stop the plant. Hyper will refrag, though, late though it be, onto Rampy. That's significant because that's the Pulse feeding information to the rest of the defenders, who is now eliminated. DarkZero's got a chance here, and they do have another set of smokes, but with Fultz still on the Warden, the smokes are not going to aid the attack. It's going to have to be the guns to win it out. Looks like it's happening, though. Fultz gets his second kill to answer onto Sky's frag, but the plant is going down, and no one's stopping it this time. Mince gets us into a post plant, 3 versus 3. Skies makes it a 2 versus 3, and make that a 1 versus 3, as Canadian is eliminated, leaving just Thinking Nade in the red hallway. He won't get anything, as Skies gets yet another kill, and DarkZero will push us onto match point.
Michael, was that not similar to what we saw out of BDS in the way that they played to hold that angle on a living room library? Did I not? I remember seeing that.
Somewhat. I mean,
Reaper did a great video on it, and I could be wrong. I could be way off base here. I didn't watch all of Reaper's video. I flipped through it without the sound on while I was making food. Probably should go back and rewatch it with sound on.
I haven't watched it, so I wouldn't know. Shameful.
Shameful that you don't support content creators. Boo, Michael.
Well, I mean, I do, and I watch most of his videos. Well, I occasionally watch his videos, but I haven't seen this one yet. But it's possible. It's certainly possible. We do see a little bit of transference of the meta, despite not having international lands right now. So it's perfectly reasonable to assume.
Regardless, a really crafty play, and I don't think DZ figured it out, but they were able to move around without having to deal with it, which is what put Thinking Nade in that unwinnable position at the very end, and Mint picking it up and going for a plant somewhere else. Well, that's all that matters. The last 2 maps, and I hate to harp on this, because Canadian just broke his goose egg that he had. He's now got 1 kill. I hate to do this, but a man named Matthew Stevens, Mr. Hot and Cold, he has 1 kill over the last hour and a half of live action. And yet, despite losing Cafe, DarkZero are a heavy favorite right now. Yet again, we are bucking the trend of these maps being close. This is a blowout for DZ at the moment. And I don't doubt that now that this is an Aviator defense, and here's where the caster curse comes in because, I'm probably going to end up being wrong. But this is where I think it starts to tighten a little bit. And I wouldn't be too surprised to see DZ end up winning with a 7-4 or maybe a 7-5 scoreline with the way that this match is going. I do think that DarkZero are heavy favorites. The team is playing well. There's strategic depth to what they're doing. They seemingly have shaken off some of their issues with Villa. And the questions that we've had for Space Station are going to linger. Since the 6 Invitational, Space Station have not looked as comfortable. They are playing on LAN. This is the one defense that everybody uses for Space Station. Oh, well, it's just online. This is a LAN build. They are playing at a LAN environment together against their opponents. Yeah, there's no crowd. Yeah, they can't see their opponents. But this build of the game is where SSG is supposed to thrive. And right now, they are not even coming close to treading water against DarkZero. So what's the excuse that's going to be brought out by SSG? They're having a rough match right now. After that performance on Cafe, I don't think we expected this. DZ has been playing absolutely lights out here on Villa. And this is the map that so far is 2-0 for SSG in this matchup.
Well, it looks like it's about to be 2-1, but we're not there yet. I will say in this round, DZ is not in the best position. Space Station has a very unique setup here, centered around the top of red stairs. But interestingly, as Fultz hits the 90-second mark, he'll fall down to the basement and abandon the top of red stairs, which appeared to be a primary point for the defense in tandem with this shield on the skull door. That's an interesting decision. I assume he just wants to play time. And considering Fultz is the top fragger by far and away for Space Station right now, having him still in play later in the round is going to pay off way more. So it's likely that his persisting here will be significant in the overall outcome of this round. I think we're going to see SSG keep it alive just a little bit longer.
It is a bit too slow of a pace for DarkZero at the moment, and we really haven't seen anything that has given us any real sign that DZ has a solid footing at the moment. This impact tricking from Thinking Nate is integral to keep the wall in vault safe, and that's both impacts gone. It also means no Selmas remaining for DZ, and they have no hard breach, so entry to the vault, denied. You're not getting in whatsoever. So take your gunfights. That's what you're going to have to do. Doubling up on Fultz, DZ walks away with that one more damage, trying to be done towards the stairs, but Hyper has to burst forward. Down goes Rampy as DZ finds 2 kills. SSG answers back to a 3v3. 15 seconds remaining, and Thinking Nade's going for a plant. So both impacts get tossed out, but Thinking Nade, or rather Hot and Cold, will have to dive off. Thinking Nade inside of the vault. He'll mow down Eclipse. 5 seconds remaining, and it's absolute chaos. Skies tries for his best, but he can't do it. Hot and Cold immobilized, and he's finished off by Canadian. The captain of SSG takes matters into his own hands, and the utter bedlam that goes through that round ends up working in SSG's favor. They strike back and manage to live another round. Still, match point for DarkZero and will be, unless we go to overtime.
So much time wasted there for DZ, as you stated, as it was happening. Just too slow of a pace on the attack. But what I find most crucial there was the third Selma. What happened to it? I'm sure many are wondering. He only had 2 impacts on the wall. Where was that third Selma? It was used on the wall between Landing and Wolf. That wall was opened up because it was reinforced by the defense. It was reinforced by the defense so that Fultz could play at the top of red stairs without having an extra aggressive angle from the attack, making his job really difficult. Opening that wall up might have been why Fultz fell off of the top of red stairs. It might have just been he fell back because they hit the 90-second mark and his job was done. His delay was, he didn't even need to shoot to delay the round. Either way, though, the third Selma was used up before the vault wall was opened. And that meant the impacts just needed to not miss for the vault wall to be denied. Had that vault wall been opened up, very different round, I'm sure. It still came down to a 2 versus 2 towards the end there. And I do think that DarkZero could have won that. So it's the little things at this level and at this point in this series. We'll go to Kitchen for the next site. Space Station, though, picking up a little bit of steam. So let's not count them out just yet.
It's always hard to say when a team plays on the Kitchen bomb site and then turn around and say, let's see what they cook up.
Yeah, I missed that opportunity. That's my bad. Just, I'm just dropping the balls here, Parker. I'm dropping the souffle.
It sounds like you need to have a tighter hold on the balls, Michael.
Yeah, or the souffle in this case.
That's fine.
Yeah, have you ever had a cheese souffle?
Okay, no.
So good.
Maybe
so good.
I have.
It's really hard to make a souffle well, though. Many people who try, like, they fall.
Michael.
And it just ruins the texture. What?
No.
It's like a cheesy cloud,
okay.
Parker. You have to try it.
Pivotal round still for DarkZero, still sitting on match point. The men that were involved in our poll, one of whom has not quite performed up to the standards that I think we might have set on his shoulders with that question, Rampy and Hyper earlier on. Hyper 15-4, Fultz 12-7. In terms of fragging potential, that has been the story for this team. The greater story to me is at the top of the scoreboard, though. DarkZero has been absolutely punishing SSG so far. And they have but a single round to go to push SSG down to the lower bracket and to make SSG play another match today. After this one, we know that most of you are probably clamoring for a certain man named Bolo. Well, he's up next with OXG as his opponent. As TSM and OXG play in our second match. The loser of that will then go on to play in our third map. Will SSG get sent down there? That's the real question. There's about half the round to go right now. SSG defending on Kitchen.
One of the biggest adversaries in this match has been time so far, and it seems like it's going to be, once again, for DarkZero, a strong consideration. No picks thus far as the attack starts opening up from above. Very late, though. Time is actually going to be a consideration for whoever loses the series as well, because after you're done playing here, if you lose, you're still playing today. Just one more match, and that one will be the elimination match. Bosco eats a lot of damage from that nade, but no kill for Skies. And again, that is so crucial. Eclipse is going to be the one now taking damage from Rampy, who pushes up to the top of red. He's got Bolts here to support him. Bosco will go down, who is the third supporting player upstairs. But look at that. A plant is happening while this top floor take is going down. And yes, it will be an even exchange. Make that a favored exchange to SSG, and the plant denied. Nice shots there from Mint. Terrible shots from Mint. He'll whip out the pistol and finish off Foltz finally, who also misses all of his shots. Hyper planting the diffuser downstairs. It's all on Rampy. He sees the planter and stops him dead. That's huge. Mint now has to pick it up and reposition. He can't plant anywhere there's a hole, and there's only so many seconds left in the clock. There's a hole right above him, but he doesn't have a choice. Here's the drop. Rampy should be able to deny this easily, and here it is. The denial with the knife. Space Station keep themselves in this.
A mix of bad coordination and good setup from SSG earlier on to deny anybody from being able to plant into those common spots. The new viewer might be curious as to why defenders go out of their way to shoot the roof above them or the floor below them, depending on where they are on the map. And, well, you just saw a perfect example of it. All of these sight lines have been created deliberately to shut off the attackers from being able to plant in default spots. We will often refer to a call out as default. Oh, he'll plant in default. It just tends to be the safest and quickest place for you to plant in. And, well, in that case, the default spots aren't actually quite that safe. And you got to see it from above. Rampy read into it perfectly. There was good calls. There was still intel inside of the bomb site. I'm assuming it was coming from the Valkyrie cameras that had been set up. And he was able to play off of that. And the time just ran out because Mint got caught. While the plant was going down, Mint got caught in a transition as he was trying to head to the bottom floor to give some support. Because ideally what happens is that while the diffuser is being planted, Mint is able to also use those sightlines that were created by the defenders against them as he tries to cover. Because at worst, if Mint dies, then hopefully whoever's planting the diffuser is able to get it down and still get out of there alive. Mint was unfortunately just a couple steps behind, and a lot of that really did boil down to his poor performance against the Valkyrie. As you said, those were some pretty terrible shots, as Mint obviously either panicked or was fed the wrong information. It gives SSG the round. And right now, I mean, we are very much looking at a defender-sided Villa. There's no way around that. 2 rounds of the 10 so far have broken for the attackers, 8 for the defenders. That is as lopsided as they come. SSG is going to continue to ride that momentum forward. They managed to buy themselves some time by getting that victory on round number 7, and SSG haven't looked too bad. Some of these rounds have been quite close. I still do think that DZ is the better practice team at the moment, but they're going to need to find an extra gear at the moment, because if not, with the way these two teams are currently playing, it seems very likely that we'll need overtime to sort this out.
You know, these rounds are coming extremely close, as you mentioned, and a lot of people, I'm sure, are wondering, when is the weight going to be too much for SSG to carry? When will their backs break? And I think that'll happen when Hodden gets his first kill. I talked about it. We talk about impact frags all the time. We talk about how incredibly relevant they can be to the outcome of a round or a match. If Hodden picks up one, the whole paradigm shifts. We're looking at a different kind of ball game here. So I'm not saying that it's all on him to get that. DZ could certainly win without that set of circumstances. You know, he doesn't have to. He's playing support right now. He's doing his job apart from the frag department. But I am saying if he does get a kill, it is likely that his team will turn that into a win. They're looking for the Electroclaw, but they do actually have the wall open on the correct side here. Over on the right, that's the most important wall to get opened up, and it has now been opened by DarkZero. That cuts off Split, the connector between Trophy, Astro, and Statuary. With that cut off, SSG has less of a hold over their own bomb site.
The two most important spots that are going to be played are where Thinking Nate is right now in this tight corner. Some people might call it a rat corner that Thinking Nate is playing on with the Alda in hand. He's just going to be able to pick off anybody that tries to enter through that opening that was created. through the doorway from Master or even pivot over to his left, where Rampy is playing over by the landing aspect of the stairs. Additionally, if there's somebody playing over by the trophy side of things, they have the guardrail in front of them, that railing to play off of as well. DZ is an obstacle inside of Astronomy that they're going to need to deal with 50 seconds remaining. Fult's in prime position to be able to smoke off the 2 angles that DZ might be pressuring from. You have to play the waiting game at the moment. Patience will play a massive part here, because if anybody on SSG gets a little too antsy or gets fed the wrong calls, well, they might be in trouble. Hyper gets a little too restless. He goes in thinking they might be in a different direction, and he pays for it. SSG opens things up. Meanwhile, DZ are just bleeding time. Another casualty on their end. This time is on Skies. Hot and Cold falls as well to Thinking Nade. So a second kill for the Maestro. Bosco pops up, and it's a reverse game of Whack-A-Mole. He shuts Mint down, and Eclipse falls as well. A single kill for DarkZero in that round. It goes from bad to worse, and now SSG find themselves 1 round away from pushing us to overtime on Villa.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was a no chance round for DarkZero. No chance at all. They're going to call a tactical timeout. I think this is the right time for DarkZero to just think about what they want to do here. They're 1 round away from going to OT. That's the last thing you want when you led 5-1 earlier in this map. So, DarkZero, hitting the pause button. Let's go over that round just a little bit. The Space Station defense was primarily focused on delay. You could see in the way that Space Station is playing, the patience on their positions. They have caught on to the fact that DarkZero is slowing down. Their attacks are starting to falter. DarkZero is not sure how to force the initiative, how to force the pick, and that much has become evident. So, given that, Space Station reacting as is appropriate by slowing down themselves and letting DZ run out the clock. Another important factor in that last round was the fact that Space Station was given the freedom to continue to roam on the study side of the building. Because Space Station were still allowed to roam off the site horizontally, they had an extra layer to their defense. Even if the Maestro dies in statuary, which he didn't, then it won't matter, because there is somebody then from that roam to take up his mantle and hold on to statuary. The layers of the defense there for Space Station were well set up. The patience was perfect for the situation, and DarkZero really needs to figure out a new game plan.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs.
Well, they took their time out specifically to try to shake something up, and I think their answer might be, well, let's bring another hard breach. Eclipse is going to be on the Hibana, and it's going to be an Aviator take. This is a critical round, obviously, for DZ. If they don't prevail here, well, then they're going to go to overtime. And who starts on overtime in defense? It's SSG. SSG gets to defend on OT or an OT twice, which obviously means that the comeback is very real. And this match has tightened up. It has really, really tightened to the point where it maybe wasn't just that DarkZero was all that well composed. I mean, they won 5 rounds in a row. That's a pretty incredible feat and not something that we see all that often. But SSG is 1 round away from winning 4 rounds in a row, which is about as close to that as you're going to get. And equally impressive, maybe a little bit less impressive, but ultimately still something to write home about.
And don't forget, quick maths, 4 rounds in a row is 1 round away from 5 rounds in a row, which would match DarkZero's 5 rounds in a row. Just saying.
Is set up from SSG, by the way, looking eerily familiar to what we saw on their previous defense of Aviator. Rampy and Fultz in that same spot. Canadian can possibly play over by 90 if he wants to. Thinking Nade holding down Vault. Thinking Nade is going to be in a crucial spot because he's going to have those impacts. That is a miss. And that is a pretty damning miss as well. Hot and Cold may be struggling to find the scoreboard, but he also seems to be struggling to find the Malusis because the Ace gadget goes off underneath the Banshee and doesn't actually take the gadget out. That is a massive waste.
That is actually especially bad because you can see that SSG is also set up to deny the wall. You can see how there's that panel in Aviator that is set up to deny the breaching on the A site. That's why you bring 2 hard destructors, so you can chew through those impacts and it doesn't matter. But every piece of hard destruction you don't use on that wall makes the chewing a lot more difficult. DarkZero are making a bid for top main control, and it's going to work out at least somewhat. Hyper does get refragged as Rampy has been downed, and there could even be another kill as Fultz gets a little aggressive. The smoke to cover, and here's the pickup. Ash goes for the impact, but it's not going to work. It's Fultz for the second kill. A weird set of circumstances there, but the aggression from DZ is shrugged off by SSG's hold on top main. And the nade nets two! The timing is impeccable! Skies gets two right next to the A-bomb, and DZ is just like that back in this round.
Absolutely remarkable throw from down below from Skies, and now it gives DZ this chance to pull themselves back up. The good news for DarkZero fans is that you've got a minute left for your team to be able to put this one together. The man of the game for DarkZero is out of it, and yet the threat of Fultz looms, and he is off site. He can tear through anybody that decides to make a case pushing in from study, and slowed down by that Banshee. You look at DZ's kit right now, and they don't really have an awful lot to deal with, and they'll have to be very careful about what they use, as there you see the hard destruction go. Both impacts get tossed out from Canadian as the Selma goes off behind him. X-Kairos will be going off on the panel in front. This will be a showdown, with SSG getting possibly pushed to the lower bracket. Sky so far, 3 kills with frag grenades, and he will now ascend the stairs, looking down towards 90 where Fultz is playing. He'll have to rotate to go back in because thinking Nade will be the only man at the moment to slow them down. But he does just that. Finished off by Hot and Cold. He breaks his goose egg. Fultz takes out Sky, so it's a 1v1. Trying to finish off. Hot and Cold will need to pop up. Fultz doesn't see him, but he gets the clutch. We're going to overtime with a huge 4K. Are you going to get it? Seal the deal? There's the ace for Fultz. Another one. His second ace of the day. Overtime, Michael.
What a huge round for everyone involved. Fultz starting at main and coming all the way back to the bar, managing to get every kill for his team. His position by 90 was huge in that round. And Parker, that round from Skies would have been the type of round that went down in Siege history. But Fultz sweeps it away from Skies. No big round for him. No saving grace for DarkZero. As you said, overtime. Space Station have done it. They've won 5 in a row. Incredibly rare. And yet still impressive, or even more impressive, made impressive by its rarity. But
I would now also like to say that I did not actually curse DarkZero. And that was entirely a joke. Because now people, now the geniuses will be sitting there being like,
You did it. It's too late now. No, but we actually don't know who's going to win this yet. I mean, yeah, Space Station are on the favored side. We've had, what, 2 attacks so far through this this whole map? 2 attacks that have won.
That's so 2-5-1 sides. That is not common.
DarkZero has to give us a third. There's no ifs, ands, or but about that. They will have to give us the third attack win for this map if they want to have any chance of winning overall.
And unfortunately for DarkZero, SSG is going to be on defense. And as I pointed out in the last round, it's going to be 2 rounds on defense for SSG. They're going to try their best DarkZero impersonation, as Canadian will be running the clash and look to try to waste time, gadgets, utility, what have you. I wonder if his positioning will be similar.
I was wrong, real quick. I got to say, Hot and Cold got his first kill.
Yes.
And it did not break the camel's back. So Space Station still persevered. I think that mostly comes down to Fultz with the ace. So there it is.
That's Fultz's second ace so far in this matchup. The last one came in round number 8 as he killed every single person and SSG won the round and then won the map. This time, Fultz aces, kills everybody, and gets the diffuser as well for added injury, and then pushes his team to overtime. Talk about a clutch performer, and now finds himself with possibly 2 more rounds to go at 18 kills.
Oh boy, I mean, he's likely to get more too. I mean, the way that Fultz has been playing, I don't think he's going to go quiet anytime soon. This is certainly looking like a massive series for him. Canadian, on the other hand, he's been a little bit quiet, and so he'll read into that and bring the clash. This offers him an extra set of impacts, so he can continue to trick this wall. And the clash has proven to be a very useful operator, especially on this site already. So that's a big pick. I think Canadian's in the right there. He'll always be useful to his team with that kit.
Providing, of course, that the utility from DarkZero is not used appropriately. The same struggles that Space Station had against Mint on that spot, and Mint with that operator, can very easily be applied to Canadian. And this angle being held from Hyper could potentially be Canadian's undoing if he looks the wrong way. He's got his shield out, and he's prepping for anybody to run across his line of sight. He might be able to spot the play inside of Closet. He knows there's one in bathroom, and there goes the ping for it. There's no follow-up for now.
Patience here for DarkZero, but we've seen that patience work against them many times. There goes the lifeline, and aside goes the shield, but there's no one to shoot the player behind the shield. And now with both lifelines used up, this clash can get a little bit dangerous with his push. Mint will be downed as well, so it looks bad here for DarkZero.
Skies and Mint finished off from Rampy on that roam down below. Hot and Cold goes too, but Mint is just dead meat playing in that position. In swings Eclipse, but he's immediately slowed down, bearing 9 out. You're going to have to be really lucky with that thing because it just does not hit its shots, and there it is. Finished off by Rampy. He's got a triple kill for his hands, and now he could potentially go for a 4th, but Hyper says no thank you. 2 big kills, 3 big kills for Hyper. He's getting slowed from the clash, but he's only got 5 seconds left. Is there any juice left for Canadian to be able to slow him down? The answer is yes. An impactful performance becomes impactless in front of our eyes, and just like that, Space Station is on match point.
I mentioned how useful that clash shield could be, and look at that. I wouldn't have put it past Hyper to win that. I totally could have seen the ace in dying seconds of the round, but not with a shield that slows you down. What a heartbreak situation for Hyper. You saw him give up mid-stride as he knew he could do nothing about the clash. And SSG, they keep this ball rolling. It certainly looks like the comeback is real here. DarkZero gets one chance, though. This defense, they can push it to 7-7. That does not necessarily guarantee them a win, but if you get to that 7-7 point, the chance is still there. Trophy statuary. The final defense for DarkZero in this series.
I cannot tell you right now the heart palpitations that both DarkZero and Space Station fans are having right now.
Yeah, this is intense. I mean, I didn't think it would be like this.
I did not foresee this, especially when it was 5-1. After the first half, my assumption was, okay, this will probably be a 7-5 for DarkZero because they're going to win 2 on attack, like most teams tend to do on Villa, at minimum. And then, well, a curse. So these teams have really just been, they've been beating each other's skulls right now, and they've just been ramming. What's the dinosaur that has like this? It just rams its skull into the other dinosaur. That's basically what they both are right now. I mean, I don't expect you to know the name of the dinosaur for what it's worth.
Oh no, it's on the top of my head.
Literally.
Yeah, because
Yep.
I don't remember, but the chat will tell us when.
Somebody will let us know. We'll figure it out.
When the delay catches up, the chat will tell us.
SSG has not led since round number 1, and now they find themselves on match point. The same thing happened in map 1 for DarkZero. DarkZero led after round 1, relinquished the lead to Space Station, trailed or tied the remainder of the game, and now history is repeating itself, but on the other side, it is a mirror matchup. SSG won the first round, had the lead, and have trailed or been tied since then. And now, they are a round away. There is a lot of storylines that we can now dig into with how similar this is to, you know, SSG qualifying and then going through and possibly winning the major the same way that DZ did that. Obviously, there's a lot more to get played out. There will be 2 obstacles for the winner of this game, and one of them will be either TSM or OXG. I am excited to watch that match.
As am I. That'll be a good one. So we were talking about earlier, you know, if you lose this, you still have to play more today, and that's going to be exhausting. So you got to be careful. It's a marathon here.
Yes, not a sprint. And as we talked about potatoes earlier, even potatoes run marathons. So
yes, metaphorically.
But Michael, we now have 90 seconds remaining, and this could be a pretty quick execute here if SSG feel comfortable with how they're using their utility and how DZ have lined things up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right now looking at this, and Space Station is not in a fantastic position, but they're definitely in the controlling position. The only caveat to that is Eclipse downstairs. As the nade does down Hot and Cold, the C4 from Eclipse goes too early. Oh no, no denial downstairs any longer. And with Hot and Cold down, an opportunity is presented to Space Station. They can put the pressure onto the site and take this round just off of that down, but Hot and Cold gets picked back up. And Eclipse's gun returns to the site. Stuns and EMPs go in. The push will work out for SSG. Fultz landing his shots, as is Rampy with 2 big kills. Skies is downed. It's all on Mint, who whips out the SMG to deny the plant, but he can't get the angle. He's trapped in a corner. The shield will assist him, but not enough. SSG with the massive comeback. They will take this series and propel themselves into the winner's bracket.
Well, round number 12 is saved by a Fultz ace to send them into overtime. An impressive defense on the very first round of OT. And how about a flawless round to seal the deal, Michael? What an inhuman performance from SSG. Really coming in clutch when they needed it the most. Incredible performances, both Hyper and Fultz finishing with 19 kills. Michael, I hate to say it, but what are they feeding them?
Evidently, they're feeding them whatever makes them go zoom zoom. A beautiful play there from both teams. Honestly, DZ came very close. I have to still be impressed by that. Space Station, though, in the end, just that much better. We know that they are the comeback kings. They've proven that before, and they reassert it now here. But that's it for us. Hope you guys enjoyed that series. I know we did. We'll go ahead and toss the analysts.
Thanks for the beautiful art, Parker. But ladies and gentlemen, when I said today was gonna be the day that Rainbow Six was gonna be back, I wasn't lying to you. Space Station Gaming came up in the biggest way possible to put DarkZero in the dirt. So Canadian, the rest of the boys, the world champs, they're gonna move on. But now DarkZero, they're gonna be facing elimination tonight. Jesse, Jacob, what the hell did we just see? That was an amazing series.
Honestly, I'm just happy I can bask in the glory that knowing my prediction of SSG was correct. It'd be a little bit nicer if Jesse picked DZ, otherwise we wouldn't be on the same playing field. But they made it as close as they could. We had the 2 closest maps of the day both going to overtime. It required more than just 12 rounds to handle it all. And in this case, it was actually kind of the inverse. Coastline went the way of DarkZero after having to complete a comeback. And in this case, it was Space Station to go and do the same. Plenty of nutty plays as DarkZero tried to carry it, but not everyone on that team performed, and SSG made him pay for it.
Yeah, an incredible comeback from Space Station for sure. You saw just in these replays that they were down 6-2 at one point, and then clawing that back, not losing a single round to bring it back and win it 8-6 overall. That's an incredible feat. Space Station obviously can hold their heads up high, and some huge frags coming out, a ton of highlights, and that's going to happen anytime you're on land. These 2 teams did not disappoint when trying to deliver a fantastic matchup. So I hope everybody is enjoyed, because this is still the first map. You know, this is the first game of the major. We've got so much more to come.
I don't know about you guys, but watching Bosco and everybody yell right there, it got me so hyped, and I'm so excited. But welcome back to the Analyst Desk. In case you're just tuning in for the first time, I'm going to be your host, Vela. I'm here with my analysts, Jesse and Jacob. But Jesse, first you, man. You were talking about it before. LAN changes everything, and that was some of the highest gameplay we've seen all season from both teams.
Yeah, I mean, there's 2 players that you have to highlight with regards to their LAN play, and of course in this map, that was Hyper and Fultz. Both players popped off, and they did it in somewhat different ways in my mind. You saw this was a very defensive map, and we saw all day so far a lot of defensive round wins coming in, and I think that does have something to do with the LAN build that we're on right now. Just the fact that holding angles is a lot stronger than is online. We saw Hyper really take advantage of that. A lot of his kills came in that first half when he was just chilling in sight. You know, he's not that aggressive of a player on defense. He can just play passive, and when things get crazy in those dying seconds and he's on site, he was popping off in those first 6 rounds. Then we saw Fultz start to pick it up once they swapped those sides, and Fultz was able to play some more of those defensive operators. He was a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more roaming happening from him, but still finding results all the same. They also both had had some great attacking rounds between the two of them. So you gotta be really impressed by how comfortable these two players are playing on LAN. The difference is night and day. I was really happy to see them both having a good day. Even though only one of them was able to win, they both played fantastically.
Jesse, be honest with me right now. Did you expect Hyper, after taking a week off with this medical issue, to pop off like that?
Absolutely not. I mean, you got to give huge props to the guy. We don't really know what he's going through, but the fact that he's able to come in and play so well for DarkZero, that makes my heart so full. It's a great story, and despite the loss, I think Hyper has a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, and now, Jacob, we talked about the superstars, right? You know, the Folks with his ace was outrageous, okay? Hyper was playing out of control, the clubs, you know, big list of them. But then you had some players that weren't so hot. So looking at both of those issues, both of those cases.
I see where this is going.
Listen, I love him. So, you know, he's not going to take this too hard. But I'm going to call him lukewarm and freezing after that performance. But hot and cold, and he didn't have a great time. But still, other players stepped up all around. What is your take about just the big plays that we've seen, man?
Well, the big plays were the factor in this game. It's not that it was really methodical game, which to some degree it was, but it did come down to all of those highlight moments. It's not like you can really plan around a strat book that requires you to get a whole bunch of crazy aces or multi-kills all at the same time. You might try to position the enemy team to get into your crosshair, but aside from that, it came down mostly to kind of breaking that playbook and which team could adapt faster. And at the end of the day, you called him lukewarm. I kind of have to follow up with that. Everyone on SSG performed a little bit better than those on DZ, just in terms of overall statistics. Hot and Cold being at the bottom, he wasn't really able to support the rest of his team. Aside from playing in a support capacity, he wasn't there when the frags were required. It's a bit of a different story if he had 1 kill, but not 14 deaths. If he didn't die every single round, it would have been a different story. We could have said that he had more impact. You look at Canadian at the bottom of SSG scoreboard, it tells a different story. He has more kills, but less deaths. He still had impact, even though he wasn't the frontline fragger because Rampy and Foltz were doing that themselves. Even if you're at the bottom of the scoreboard, you can still do well, but Hot and Cold just couldn't show up on that final map.
Jacob, as the kids say, you're spitting right now. Jesse, I know you have something to say about the scoreboard. One thing I would like to point out, you know, not all bad stats are bad stats. Mint sitting at 4 and 10, but you got to remember, Mint had opportunities that he couldn't capitalize on. The one thing that comes to memory is main stairs. He has a player down, missed the breaching charge, and then immediately died. I'm not sure what caught his attention, but missed opportunities like that seem to really haunt DarkZero. But what do you see looking at this board?
I mean, you know, 19 and 19, that's 38 kills between the two top players. I know we've already talked about it. You know, I don't have to do the math for you, but that's incredible. You can't really, you know, hate on those players towards the bottom of the scoreboard either, though. Like, let's take a look at Canadian, for example, 4 and 10, 0 and 2 for opening statistics, but he's, again, the guy who's just recently moved on to a role that's more anchor, more supportive, and he's really, like, focused on providing that information and leading his team with the calls. You know, it's similar to what we talk about Bio when we get into that next matchup, and so you can't really, you can't pull those players down too hard. They're still doing their job, and they're still having an impact on the round. I don't think you can get 8 or even 6 rounds in a matchup like this without being, you know, a good player and having 5 full players on your team. So yeah, I mean, the 19 and the 19 are gonna steal the show, and that's all people are gonna talk about, and that's okay, but you don't dunk too hard on the rest of the team. Most of the kills were going very strongly towards just 2 players.
Yeah, so like I said, we had a banger for the first series of the day, and that was just the first. We got a second one coming up, and like I said during the intro, if you love fragging, this is going to be a fragger's paradise of a matchup. It's going to be insane. It's going to be TSM and Oxygen, but before we jump into that game, we're going to take you to a short break. Make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll be back soon.
shot for me. Perfect.